All right, I'm just going to check to make sure that it actually has gone live. Not yet. We're not live yet. We're not live yet. Okay, it's just gone now. Yes. Okay, great. We're live now.
Okay.
All right, perfect. So welcome everybody to this really exciting live stream. That I'm so pumped to do this with some of my favorite people from my travels of the last 2 years or so. We've got some pretty cool stories that I'm sure we've all got some pretty cool stories to tell from our work together. So I'm really excited to get into this. And yeah, the whole purpose of what we're doing today is to learn about veganism, activism, animal rights in Asia. And we're going to jump right in, really. I mean, we've got our schedule. We know what we're going to go through, and we're going to mainly talk about those things in Asia. The reason we're going to do this, the reason we're doing this, is that I personally feel that there's a lack of knowledge in the vegan movements over, in the West, like where I'm from, about what's going on in Asia. And I'm really happy to have DEEPIKA, ANISH, and SAJANI here to enlighten us all about what is actually going on in India, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. So, yeah, everyone, welcome. Thanks so much for being here. Do you want to give a wave to everybody watching? And let's go through some intros first. All right, let's introduce ourselves to start with the basics. So I will choose SAJANI. Could you go first? Introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Why me? Okay, fine. Yeah, I'm SAJANI. I'm from Colombo, Sri Lanka. So if I, briefly tell about my journey into veganism. Before going vegan, I was a vegetarian for a long time, since I was about 10 years old. That's actually because I saw a footage of a cow being slaughtered when I was really young, and that struck me hard. Even though I had not tasted beef at all in my life, I was able to relate that to the other animals that I was eating, fish and chicken. And I mean, I saw that animal didn't want to die, and it cannot be any different to what the other animals are feeling as well, right? So and my father was also a vegetarian, so that had a very big influence on me. And so I've been a vegetarian since I was a kid, and about 2.5 years ago, I was introduced to veganism by a friend who lived in the States at the time. She was posting beautiful, food images that she makes that are healthy and vegan. So that got me interested in veganism, and then I looked more into it. Up until then, I didn't know that something called veganism existed. And so I researched more into it, and I found these 2 videos on YouTube called "Dairy is Scary" and "What's Wrong with Eggs," and that watching those 2 videos were the trigger point for me to switch to a plant-based diet overnight. And since then I've been making deliberately, like intentionally making choices to buy vegan clothing and vegan cosmetics, skincare, whatever. So whatever I buy new, it will be vegan. So that's how I got into veganism, and I still keep improving. There's a lot of things that we don't think of that are not vegan.
Okay, oh, perfect. Thank you for explaining. That's it's an inspiring story. And so remind me, how long ago was that? Did you mention how long ago that you made this decision?
A little over 2 years, like about 2.5 years. Yeah.
So that was like around the time where I guess veganism was kind of blowing up, getting more in the media and becoming more of like let's say like a mainstream thing. Let's say like kind of, it was all social media, like people were talking about it, and there were big YouTubers and big kind of like, I don't know what you're called, influencers, celebrities, this kind of thing was starting to get a little bit more, right? It's like to build a little bit.
Yeah, especially in the West. So like when I was vegan in Sri Lanka, it was still quite novel, but there was a lot happening in the West. Yeah.
Sure. Cool. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. So I think DEEPIKA's having some technical issues, so we'll go for Anish. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm from Kathmandu, and Yeah, I've always felt, since I was a very little child, little boy, I really didn't like, people eating meat. I used to eat like it was kind of force fed to me because it's in the culture and everything and blah blah. But I never felt good about it. So later I left, I went vegetarian, and then I came to know about veganism through one of my friends, and then I always made an excuse of saying that in Nepal, they don't kill cows. Their cows are regarded as like cows are the national animal, and they're also worshipped. It's like they're also metaphorically represented as a goddess, Lakshmi as well, and that all. But when you actually dig into it, that's not the case. It's horrible here
Yeah.
in Nepal, as horrible as it's back in the West. So it was back in I think in 2015 I went vegan since then. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome, awesome. And we have a yeah. I quickly want to mention here like something interesting about how I know you, because that's a quite a funny story, isn't it? Just like a quick little anecdote. So
Yeah.
I was actually in Nepal because I was climbing, going to go to Everest Base Camp, and I was hanging out with my like climbing team, and the manager of the restaurant we were in, he came over to me because he knew we were vegan and said, hey, look, these two
Yeah.
sat on this table. He said, like, they're vegan. These two, this couple, they're vegan. You should talk to them. And I was like, oh my God, but I don't even, this is my first time like in Asia. And I'm like, oh, my first time in Nepal. So my first time like on my own traveling. That's what I mean to say. And I didn't want to come over, but I was like, oh, I need to go over and talk to him. And then that's how I met you and your wife. It's like a funny story, huh? And now look at us, man. Now look at us. We're on a live stream together. Who would have
This
thought?
is
2 years
not
later.
about it. Okay. This is not my wife. She was my girlfriend.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
We're good friends now, and we run our vegan bakery together. So we
Oh,
bakery is called
that's
Saravic's
cool, man.
Vegan. Yeah.
I thought you were married. I'm sorry, man. I got that.
Yeah. I still
Sorry.
have that sticker you gave to me.
Oh yeah,
It yeah, expect some
yeah. It's that's awesome, man.
or expect resistance, and
Yeah, man.
that
So
I
that's
still have your t-shirts that you gave to me
that's
back
awesome,
then.
dude. Awesome,
Yeah,
man. 2 years, man. 2 years went quickly. Almost
yeah,
three. Yeah. All
I
right,
think so.
Deepika. Sorry, go ahead, man. Sorry.
No, no,
What
no.
was you
I
saying?
was. We can talk about it
We'll
later
come back
on.
to it. We'll come back to it. Yeah. Deepika, we have you back.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you want
So
to
sorry,
introduce? Yeah, do you want to introduce yourself? And we'll hopefully it doesn't cut out again, but we'll handle it if it does. But yeah, do you want to give us an introduction?
so I'm Deepika. I'm from Bangalore, India. So I've been vegan for about 2 years, and I've been an activist for 2 years as well. Yeah, that's pretty much about it about me.
Oh wow, that was quick. That was really quick.
You want to know my vegan story?
Yes, please. What's your vegan story?
It's a long story. So I happened to watch this documentary called Cowspiracy, and I had read a book called *Sapiens* by Harari. So he talks about the biggest crime of humanity. There's a whole chapter, and he talks about animal agriculture. So I started looking up, like, what is this? And then I came across this Dominion trailer, and I'm like, I can't do it anymore. And then it was done. That's that. Basically, that was my movie story. Yeah.
Wow, that's not a long story. That's really
No,
quick.
I made it very short. I cut it out.
That's awesome. I like how everyone here has you've kind of been driven by your own, you did it yourself. It's not like you are like, following an activist as such, or like, someone inspired you. You kind of figured it out yourself and did your own research and then found your own way, which I think is really it's awesome. It's really cool.
Actually, I did follow a few activists on
Oh yeah.
Instagram.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but I was thinking I was transitioning I was following a few activists, and they kept putting up posts, and like you feel guilty. You're looking at that, you're like, okay, I'm eating this,
Yeah.
I'm eating that, and you feel guilty. And yeah, I think that made a huge difference as well.
That's really good feedback, because you know what? So many vegans try to tell other vegans that you shouldn't make people feel guilty, but I mean, if you don't feel guilty, you won't do anything. Like, this is negative emotion drives people to do things, like not positive emotion, So yeah, that's a whole other topic, though. I mean, we can maybe get into that a bit later, but let's focus on what we came here to discuss. And let's jump into the first topic. Let's talk about veganism and activism in your respective countries, because this is really juicy. I really want to get into this. So I've had the most experience with India, and I've just done a video about India. So let's do India last, if that's okay, Deepika, and let's focus on Nepal and Sri Lanka first. So Sajani, you didn't like going first last time, so let's ask Anish. Anish,
Sure.
veganism and activism in Nepal, like, are there many vegans? What is the public's attitude? What kind of actions are you doing? Like, give us an idea of how things are in Nepal.
Well, I wouldn't call myself an activist, but kind of passive kind of an activist. So I think there are lots of vegans in Nepal, all over the country. Okay, I'm not specifically talking about Kathmandu. I used to think the only vegans I knew were the activists that we went to do, kind of vigils and mostly Cube of Truth after 2018 that you first did it in Everest, right? Then you came back
on the way to Everest, on the way to the base camp,
yeah. The Anonymous for the Voiceless official started after a few months from then. So they've been doing this every Saturday only in Kathmandu. I don't think they've done it outside. So I thought they were the only vegans around in Kathmandu, very small bunch of people. But after we started our vegan bakery, online bakery, then we started getting lots of orders, and it was amazing to see. There's so many young and even old, not so young, vegans around. Not just in Kathmandu but all over the country. And speaking about veganism, the oldest vegan I've ever met was a guy. He's been vegan for 40 years, more than 40 years. He's now in his 80s. So I talked to him about how he became vegan. So he said he was more of a religious guy, and he said he used to read lots of religious texts and all, and there are some rishis who regard the animals as their guru. So anything if you're exploiting or harming animals in any ways, it's completely totally wrong to do that. So, and I've also heard that my grandfather used to tell my mom that there were groups of people, way back, maybe centuries back. Then since then, there are people who didn't use any animal products, because it didn't come from their consent, and it's exploitation and cruelty if you're using in any ways animal products at all.
Right.
So I think it's been thousands of years since the civilization. Veganism has been a part of this culture here in Nepal, and maybe also in India or Asia as a whole.
Yeah, I think the concept, there's the concept of ahimsa, and then there's obviously like Buddhist teachings that are very prevalent in Nepal, right? Like Buddhism is very, very big in Nepal. So it doesn't surprise me at all that these civilizations or like groups have existed. It's a natural extension of Buddhism to be vegan. It's the natural progression if you actually follow Buddhism properly. Is it not where you should end up? you know, you should end up being against animal exploitation if you follow Buddhism to its you know, all the way through, right? That's what I'm trying to say. So it doesn't surprise me at all. But it might surprise a few people here who are watching in the West to know that, you know, the I guess vegan idea has been practiced before, like thousands of years ago, you know, because it has. And I think that's some education that I think more vegans need to have. I think we'll only benefit from it, you know, by knowing this, for sure. And you mentioned the Cube of Truth, and I wanted to talk about that because this was some experience, right? The Cube of Truth in Kathmandu. So I'll give a quick like summary of what happened. So we did the first ever Cube of Truth. This can link in. You can tell me a bit more about people's attitudes after this, you know. But I experienced people's attitudes to veganism firsthand in Kathmandu when we did the first Cube of Truth in Kathmandu with ANISH and with some locals, also with an Indian activist, Rohit Ingle. I don't know if you'd know him, Deepika. He was there, great guy, really helped us out. Like, we had a great team. But unfortunately, a large group of local men didn't appreciate the Cube of Truth, and there was about 20 of them, and it got very, very dangerous very quickly. And the police had to come with guns and hold these guys back. And then they told us, you can do this Cube of Truth. It's okay. You can do this event, but you need to tell us before you do it so that we can make sure that we keep you safe. But that was my first experience of a Cube of Truth in Asia. I was super scared, but you were super chill, man. I remember you were really relaxed about it.
Because there was this one guy who was misleading the whole bunch of people there, you know, telling them that you guys were like Christian missionaries, trying to, you know, promote some, you know, Christian things. So they didn't have any idea about what veganism was. And, you know, this Andrew, I think he had long beard, you know, he was
I remember that.
Big banner, you know, in a bamboo stick saying, you know, vegan flag.
Man, I remember this guy.
They were, I don't know, you know, they became very aggressive with that and all, and it was all misunderstanding. And I knew that.
But the attitudes, this is what I wanted to move on to. The attitudes of people, I mean, obviously that was a misunderstanding, right? But how are the attitudes of people towards veganism in Nepal once they know what veganism means? Because this is not a good example. They didn't understand what we were doing, right? But now they, you know people personally, obviously. You've spoken to people about veganism, both young and old. Like, how do people tend to react and respond when you teach them what veganism is in Nepal?
Okay, I'd like to say something. The place where we did this first cube, you know, not did, but tried to do the first cube is, you know, Tamil, and it's a very touristic area. So at that time, there weren't any. There are lots of restaurants, but they didn't have much vegan options. You know, now, you know, in almost every restaurant around that area, they have vegan menu. Not actually menu, but they have this vegan options in their menu. So they're very much familiar with veganism now. And coming back to your question about the attitude that people have when I talk or maybe preach about veganism to them. So I think it's very positive, you know. I even took this vegan class once, you know, and I lost many friends, you know. I used to, you know, they used to invite me every time, but once I made a post about, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, please don't invite me if you're eating meat or any non-vegan stuff, you know. So
okay, wow.
After that, you know, I think I lost contact with lots of my friends. They didn't invite me, you know, but now, you know, they're not vegans, or not, at least not even vegetarians still. But now when I'm there, you know, they try not to eat meat, you know, even if they, you know, they try not to talk about it. So
it's good. It's nice that they make the effort then, right? You know, that's the thing, right? And
And Back then,
Sorry,
they
just
didn't even understand what sorry,
okay.
veganism was, and they used to like mock me and talk things and like make jokes about eating meat and killing animals. But we have been very serious about it, and now they don't do that anymore. And talking to people about it, there are lots of cultures, in there's like Krishna Janmashtami, they use this peacock for what do you call the feather,
Yeah, yeah.
and whenever I see people, once like they sell it, so everyone kind of have it in their hands while they're walking, and I'll just go approach them and just tell them that where it came from, it's so stuff
So
like that, They
you
don't
are an
get aggressive.
activist then.
But there are lots of people who tend to go, very angry when you talk about veganism,
Yeah.
But all depends on how you approach.
Yeah, and this is it. I mean, you are doing activism though. Like you said, you don't consider yourself an activist. I mean, that what you've just said, that's a form of activism, man. So I would consider you an
Yeah,
activist, for sure. And I just wanted to quickly open this up actually to Deepika and Sajani, because something you mentioned, obviously at the beginning, a little bit back, you said about how they assumed that we were Christian missionaries, right? So they
yeah,
assumed that, oh, this is some Western ideology coming over to make us change. And I know for a fact that that has happened. A lot of people believe that in India. And I don't know about Sri Lanka. So, Deepika or Sajani, do you want to maybe comment on that, and like how has that happened to either of you when you've tried to talk about veganism, that people have started to tell you, oh, this is a Western thing, and that kind of paranoia?
In India, they relate it with mostly upper caste thing more than
Mm,
anything else. They look at, because in India, food is very religious and political. So when you say about vegan, no, not consuming animals, it straight away goes to the upper caste because they don't consume meat. They consume, of course, they're vegetarians. They're not vegans. So it looks more like you're trying to push that agenda than
mm,
actually about animals. Then you have to explain that no, it's not about. Um, it's nothing to do with religion.
yeah.
It's a conscious thing. It's about the animals, and fairly people have in India. People have been open from my experience. With my experience, it's not been that hard. They understand, but they won't do it. That's the problem.
Right. Can you explain? Because I mean, I guess a lot of people watching may not know what do you mean by caste? So could you explain like that? What is the caste system? Like, what are you saying when you say people, higher caste? You said they think veganism is a higher caste
Yeah.
thing. Like, what does that mean?
Caste system is it's a very long thing. There are basically four divisions. There is Brahmin, there is Kshatriya, there is Vaishya, there is Shudra, and there is the last one who are the untouchables who don't belong to any of the first four. So this is how it is. And usually the Brahmins, the upper caste, the topmost, considered topmost. So they don't consume uh, meat because they look at it as filthy, not as harming animals. It used to be that, but now it's become more like it's dirty kind.
Like a
So
purity thing, right?
purity thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So the lower caste or the people who consume meat, they're looked down upon by these upper caste people, these Brahmins or who Brahmins and some Vaishyas don't consume meat, and other religious people like there are Jains, there are Buddhists, and Jains also they don't really consume animal products. So they think it's an agenda of it's a Brahmin agenda, and that's how
Yeah.
it's looked at in India. That's the problem. And the Brahmin population is very less. I don't know the numbers, but it's very number wise they are insignificant, but they have all the power types. So yeah, that's how it is.
And so is it fair to say, like, for anybody that maybe doesn't still quite get it, because I've explained it in this way before, tell me if I'm wrong, but the way I feel about it is that, like, it's, as India doesn't have diversity of ethnicity, almost everybody in India is Indian. There are tribal people that you call them, right? I think tribal people that look slightly different, but the majority of the population is Indian, right? Like in like traditional Indian, let's say, as what you imagine when you think Indian. That's what the majority of the population is. And then, so this is kind of like, it's kind of like a form of racism is what I'm trying to say. Like,
Yes,
you know, like in the West, yeah, in the West, this would be between, you know, like people would say this same hierarchy exists where, you know, white people and then and other ethnicities like that. So that's what we'd say this is racism, and it should be, you know, systemic racism. It's kind of India's version of systemic racism. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, it's pretty similar.
Okay. Just so people can understand it. Yeah.
There are different ethnicities as well, because the Northeast is a different ethnic group, and there are so it's not, India is very diverse that way.
Of course, yeah.
And they don't have a caste system in Northeast. It's mostly tribes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's
So
very different.
yeah, I'd read a bit about the Northeast, but I've not looked into it that much. The first I've learned about the Northeast is when they started to. What do they call the Northeastern communities? There's a name they give to them that people, you know what I mean? What is that name?
Yeah, that's a very racist term.
Is it racist? No, I don't mean in a racist way. I mean in like how do they refer to people who live in the Northeast? Like, is there a nice name? A nice name. Oh, I don't know them. I don't know then. I was just saying that they're basically. Yeah, I know the nasty name. I've seen that. I know that's horrible. But no, anyway, the Northeastern people, they're considered. I was reading about this with the whole dog meat thing, because they tried to ban dog meat in the Northeast, and the Northeast are really rejecting it because they're saying that we're not part of your India. Like, we have our, you know, we are doing our thing here, and they've been really strong on that.
That's just one state. That is.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's Nagaland. It's not other states.
Okay.
I'm in touch with the people from Assam. Assam people don't really consume dog meat, but the people from Nagaland has a parallel government.
Yeah. North, you know, India is so, even after spending so long there, I still you can never learn enough about India. There's so many complicated things going on. It's insane. Like, and every state is like another country. You know, it's crazy in a good way though. It's like it's I've still only scratched the surface of, of what's going on.
I myself don't understand the tribal system of the Northeast. I don't understand it. It's very difficult because the culture is so different from the South India or mainland India where we live.
Yeah. I thought just by knowing about casteism, I thought, I've got it down now. I know something. And it's like, oh no, there's still a load more things to learn. But let's whilst we're on the topic, let's talk about India. Let's talk about veganism, and again, like, people's attitudes and the activism going on there. Like, so give us an overview of how it is from your experience in India.
I've basically worked very differently in India. As in, first I worked with a local group, then I joined the Save movement. So since I've been an activist for about 1.5 years, and in India, it's people, they get like I was saying before, they understand the concept, but they don't want to switch because dairy is very integral part of everything we do. The cows, so especially for the Hindus, it's like we use Indians use everything, like the cow. Even the cow dung is considered holy. They use it to clean their houses. Even the gaumutra, the cow's urine, even that's used. So it's explaining to people how it is an issue is, I don't know. Nothing seems to work sometimes, but sometimes people just switch. You see them just switch. And with respect to food, I would say in India, South Indian food especially, we would be the easiest to switch because most of our food is plant-based. I'm sure you've seen it in India, right? You've traveled here so much, so
yeah.
It wasn't. I don't think it's an issue being vegan here. So even the most the lower caste people who eat a lot of sorry, I shouldn't say this, but the people who eat a lot of meat, I shouldn't say lower caste, I'm sorry. So the people who eat a lot of meat, even then, 4 or 5 days a week they basically eat plant-based food. It's like 2 3 days is something where they consume meat. But since we have such a large population, the meat consumption becomes high.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's like, yeah, obviously, with I've been there with you. We've seen how that looks. You know, how these how the slaughterhouses are and everything. And let's talk about.
Yeah.
Are you still there? Lose everyone.
Yeah. We lose David?
I think we lost him.
Yes, I think.
Yeah, I think we lost it. Yeah.
He looks sleepy.
Okay, so I'll tell about the Indian activism thing. David?
I think it's back on now.
Yeah, sorry. I actually just
Okay.
I lost my connection. I don't know what the hell happened. Okay, am I still here now? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Now
Hello?
I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Are we good?
yeah.
Yes, but your video, kind of seems stuck up.
Oh, we're back. Yeah, we're back now. Yeah, got that. I think we're good now. Okay, where were we? I've lost what point are we up to just now? But
Can't hear you, David.
Yeah, I think it's your voice is delayed and your video doesn't seem to be working right now. Okay.
Should I tell
Maybe.
about the Indian activism thing? I'll
Yeah.
go ahead. So in
Yeah.
India,
But,
the activism scene is going on. Uh, it's very complicated because we do a lot of vigils here, and while doing the vigils, vigils is we go to slaughterhouse and we see what's going on, and we try to get the footage of the animals that are there, and we try to give them love, give them some water, give them food, and try to document their experiences. So in India, it's easy to go in there, but it's also very risky because, of course, it is not a very safe space where David has had a lot of. We are talking about vigils in India.
yeah,
How we do
sure,
it.
sure.
So I was telling them that it's easy to go, but it's risky.
Yeah, I mean, for a vigil, you mean? Yeah, we've heard this a few times, especially in India, with people saying, "Yeah, it's really risky," but then we've not. I mean, the amount of issues have been very, very minimal. I mean, it depends on your attitude. Absolutely, it depends on how you are. If you go to a slaughterhouse to document and you start shouting and telling them what to do, then as Anish told me, you've done this in Nepal. You're going to get attacked. You know, they're going to try and hit you because you're trying to tell them what to do or what not to do. If you just go there to document, and you can't stop them, you know what I mean? You really can't stop them unless you want to try and break some laws and take animals from there, which is totally up to you. But that's not what a vigil's for. So, you know, if you go into these places to document and just to be there and film, you'll have no issues as long as you're polite and you request permission to film. So yeah, I mean, it can be risky, but it just depends on you as an individual. Like, what attitude are you going to bring? You know, and that's how we experienced it in India. The only times I've ever heard of anyone having a problem in India from when we were there and when we were listening was something in Delhi where a foreigner and a local went together and they caused problems. They said a few things, they filmed things without asking, and they got beaten up. I know that's what happens if you're not careful. But that's also, you know, that's not just an India thing. That's in the West as well. But somebody got punched in the face at a vigil in Germany just last year. And you know, these things. It's a risk you take when you do this. But if you play nice, then your chances of this happening are very low. You know, very low. It just depends on how you want to do it. You know.
Yeah,
Anish, you're laughing a lot here. Why are you laughing so much?
Yeah, but sometimes when you're like into activism and you're into such stuff very deeply, it kind of like builds up into you. You know, you cannot take anything that's wrong. You know, like once I was walking on a scooter and I saw this shopkeeper selling a live chicken, and he was wrapping the whole chicken into a sack, and he was treating it like it was something, an object, so, just
Yeah.
to uh, uh, I stopped my motorcycle, and then I just wanted to go talk to him about it. What you're doing is wrong, but he was quite far, so then ran. I don't know what happened to me. I just happened to push that guy quite hard. He
Oh,
rolled over a few meters. He came back and punched me, and I had this black eye for about 1 month after that.
wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Damn.
Actually, after I pushed him, there was no anger in me at all, and when he was gonna punch me, I was actually giggling. There was no anger in me. I was,
I don't understand how the first words out of your mouth on this live stream were, I wouldn't consider myself an activist. You're like, what the hell? You're like running and hitting people for animal cruelty, and you say, I'm not an activist. What the hell, man? And like, also, I mean, I think this is something else as well. It's very interesting that, like, I think people, there may be some anti-vegans or non-vegans who are watching now might think that you're like, oh my God, look at this aggressive guy. But they would do the exact same thing if they saw someone wrapping a chicken up in some packaging like an object, because these people are against animal cruelty. But they don't think that, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind, right? They're very hypocritical. But I want to quickly jump back to DEEPIKA, because obviously you're getting into that then before we jumped over, before I disrupted everybody with the internet instability. So you were talking about the activism. You touched on vigils, right?
Yeah.
And what else? Give us a bit more about the activism, the scene in India, because I know there's a lot going on. So like, what else is, how many people are there? How many vegans are there? Like, how do people react to veganism? Let's get into that a bit more. Give people the idea of that for India.
I can't put a number, but there are not a lot, but there are vegans in Bangalore, at least as far as I know. There are quite a few vegans I know of personally. There are like 300, 400 who are like doing some kind of activism. So in India, they're not, for the population we don't have that many vegans, but yeah, it's a very small percentage, but yeah, there are vegans.
Yeah.
What was the other question? Sorry.
What are people's reactions, attitudes? How do they? I mean, obviously we talked about the Brahmins, we talked about the caste system, but like when you talk to them, when you explain it to them, when once they realize it's not about that, then what happens after that? Well, you said they say they understand, like, but you said some of them don't change, but like, from your experience, how many people are actually like, okay, yeah, I would change, and how many are like, nah, I don't care? Like not literal numbers, but like in general, like you're feeling.
Not many say I don't care.
Yeah.
So they do feel something when you explain or when you tell them what happens, but I've not heard even one person say I don't care, but they don't say I'll change. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, so I have friends who have gone vegan after I went vegan after like 7 months after, because I was posting a lot on social media about the slaughter, they look at it and because once you explain, it's just gone. They go back home and then it's just gone. So the constant exposure is, I think, what makes them want to switch. So it's
like
a
it did
slow
for you,
process.
right?
Yeah,
Like it did for you, like the same thing, like you said. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right, SAJANI, I gave you what you wanted. You've been able to go last. Talk to us about beautiful Sri Lanka. And I say that I'm biased. I loved Sri Lanka so much. I'm sorry, everybody. It was my favorite country that we went to. I'm sorry. I don't want to offend anyone, but if you've never been to Sri Lanka, you don't know why. But if you have been to Sri Lanka, been to like the country in Sri Lanka, you'll understand exactly why I said that. It is incredible. What's it like then? To give us an overview, veganism, activism, the community, the attitudes of people in Sri Lanka. How was it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the numbers at hand, like as to how many vegans are there in Sri Lanka, but um, compared to like a few years ago, there's a lot of people, uh, you know, converting into veganism. Like they may take baby steps, which I would not encourage, but uh, they will start thinking about it, and because of the exposure that we keep on posting about things, and the vegan community in Sri Lanka keep posting about things. So a lot of people reach out to us, and personally message us and ask, like, get into conversation. It could be, it could end up in an argument. It could end up in a good way. But compared to like when I went vegan first, there's a lot of people that are popping up, as vegans, even in his Instagram. And I know vegans who have been vegan for 7 to 8 years, and I know people I know families who are raising their kids on a plant-based diet, and that is not something that I expected in Sri Lanka.
That's
Um,
awesome. That's
yeah.
amazing, right? Wow.
And because of all this movement going on, and I see a lot of restaurants and major hotel chains introducing vegan options, and vegan high tea and vegan buffets in the hotels and restaurants. So there's I think momentum is building, and it's a good sign. um, yeah, and if you talk about like the attitude towards veganism, the public attitude, I wouldn't say it's all, I wouldn't say it's all positive. It's like in any other country, when something slightly unorthodox is happening, most people naturally react you know negatively to it. So and veganism is not just unorthodox, it also make them question about their actions, right? Put people
Yeah.
on the hot seat and really make them think about their actions. So they don't like to be in that position, to question their
Of course.
morality. So I wouldn't say it's a very positive, um, not everyone is positive about it. So
Yeah.
but yeah,
The change. People don't like change.
exactly, yeah.
That's expected, you know. Yeah, that's all over the world. But just as a side note, does somebody have a nursery going on in their place? Like I could hear like what sounds like 20 kids having like a play session. Where is that? Is it Anish? Is it you?
No, no, it's
Where
not
are
it.
these kids? Can you hear it? Or is it just, am I hearing things right now? I can hear,
Yeah,
anyway, okay.
I can hear you.
I don't know. But anyway, I had a question for you, Sajani. Oh, that was it. Yeah. So about the way you advocate. So I know that for like, all three of you, I've seen how you talk about veganism when you talk about veganism, and it's very unapologetic. Like you're actually very direct and to the point. And this is something that I learned a lot from, especially from Indian activists. Whilst I was in India, I learned that they really don't. We say don't beat around the bush. Like they're just very, in India, activists are very like, very, this is how it is. And not everybody, but like the majority of the activists I met in India were very direct. And I've noticed that as maybe a bit of a trend with the Asian activists that I've met, tend to be a little bit more like that. So I've seen that all you three are like that. I've noticed that you're very direct. Do you think this is how it needs to be in your countries? Do you think this is like the best way of getting through to people? Because in the West, it's a big argument as to whether or not this is the right way to do it. What do you think about from your experience in your countries, from being so direct and unapologetic?
uh, I personally don't see anything, bad about it, because it is what it is. You need to tell the truth and show what is actually going on, because most people, they're not exposed to these things. Even I meet a lot of people every day, like questioning about, aren't you don't you even eat eggs? Like, because the egg doesn't have a life in it. So a lot of people don't know these things, and when you explain it to them, it plants a seed in their head. So you need to tell the truth and make people accountable. There's nothing wrong with telling the truth and be direct about it. And a lot of people are they have compassion at heart. They don't want to see an animal harmed. They don't want to see a dog harmed, right? So as a matter of fact, they don't want to see any animal harmed. They don't want to kill an animal themselves unless it's a psychopath. So
Yeah.
it's just it's just they don't do it themselves. They don't see what's going on, and it's years of conditioning that has made them you know they become so distant from the what they see and what they eat. So they find it difficult to make that connection, like the chicken that's on their plate wanted to live just as much as their pet dog does, right? So it's you need to be direct about it. And I think it's when you say something directly, it plants a seed and people go back and think about it. Of course they will argue at first, but it will always have an impact on them.
Yeah.
That's what I've experienced, at least. I don't know how is it in India and Nepal.
Um, I don't know. I think with respect to veganism, it just comes naturally to me. Like this is what it is. I don't. How do you be apologetic about killing so many? How can someone be apologetic is something I just don't understand because
I don't know.
when
I don't know, but I see it every day, and like I'm constantly getting shit for being unapologetic, and people telling me, David, you should be calmer. You should stop swearing at people. You should stop telling people directly and treat them like babies. Trust me, I'm in the same position as you with this. I'm like, what? Why are you trying to like dumb down the message or like try and make it softer? Anyway, sorry, continue. I just wanted to express my frustrations. I feel the same as you.
So I think I talk to them when I'm talking. I do lose it sometimes, but now I'm working on staying calm and talking to them. But I think the message has to be direct. The way you say it is what matters more than anything else. Like the message that you're putting across, because once I don't understand how people can be apologetic, like, oh, I'm vegan, but I won't tell anyone about it. I don't understand that. I really don't understand.
Yeah.
So it's easier to just say it.
Cool. And Anish, what about you in Nepal? How is this approach? Because I know you're very direct, aren't you, as well? Like I've seen some of
Yeah,
your posts
like
and
people get hurt when you say something bad. When they get hurt when you say something bad to them, not even bad. You're just saying what it is. They get hurt. They don't like being hurt, even with spoken words. And they're killing other beings, animals, sentient beings. So why do you have to be, apologetic to that? It's not it's not a question at all.
yeah.
I think that
You
way,
were you hitting a table as you were speaking then? That's how direct you are. I could hear it. Bang, bang. Because I like that you're like that though, and I wish more people were so, like this is how it is. I'm not gonna dumb it down or dress it up or sugarcoat it for you. If you don't like it, you shouldn't
like,
like it. It's fucking horrible. Like what
yeah.
are we
So
supposed to be laughing about this?
yeah,
But you know what? I think you should say it, but you should be calm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that hits people more. If you're just shouting, even they want to yell. It becomes a yelling match. If you're
That's true.
calm, yeah, but be
I think it
direct.
all. I think it also depends on the platform, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry, Anish, go ahead.
okay. How would you react when someone is, kidnapping someone else's kids? Would you be
You
calm?
calmly and politely request that they stop doing
Yeah.
that.
And
No, you're right, dude. You're totally right. Yeah.
they're living. They say that. What about the profession of all those, like meat sellers, the butchers, and all? You know. And I tell them that like thieves, about thieves and robbers, it's their profession. So is it right or wrong?
Yeah.
It's wrong, totally wrong. It's totally nonsense. So
No, of course, dude. Like, it
that,
doesn't. I mean, just someone's job is not a reason to keep on doing something. Like I use the example of Netflix. I think we talked about this maybe, like the Netflix and the DVDs. And it's like if Netflix put the DVD business like out of business, does that mean we should feel bad for them? Should we protect their jobs and buy DVDs? No, it's the past. We grow, we change. The society evolves, and we find new ways of doing things that are more efficient, and in this case that are less violent. Of course it's sad that people, I don't necessarily enjoy the idea of people not being able to earn money or having to lose a job, but at the end of the day, if that job is a violent job, then it's better that they lose that job than the violence continue. You know what I mean? I know which of those, even if it was one of my family members, even if it was like my own mum that was going to lose her job, I would say, like, sorry, no matter how close you are to me, like if your job is violent and taking advantage of the weaker people, weaker beings, then no, you should lose that job. So I'm totally with you on that, and that's a really shit excuse that people bring up. They don't really care about these people's jobs. It's just bullshit. They just say it. They just say it. It's just an excuse. So let's get into something that I noticed that is very, very different from the West, and I really want to get into this with you, in that religion. So obviously, religion in the West, it is like, people do get upset about it and stuff, but it's a little bit less intertwined into people's lifestyles than it is in your countries. From my personal experience, you can tell me if I'm wrong. So for example, like where I'm from, Christianity is the dominant religion, but it's not like you're told your whole life that you can eat or not eat something because God told you to. You know what I mean? It's like something we're told, it's in the Bible, but it's not like we live our lives by it. You know what I mean? It's not drilled into our heads as young people that God gave you animals to eat. It's not how it is. But as I know that, especially my experience is mainly in India, I know that a lot of Indians are raised that way and told that, like, okay, there are certain things that you can and can't eat because of your religion. And I don't know if it's the same in Nepal or Sri Lanka, but I want to talk about this and this as a challenge for you, because I know it's definitely different from the challenges in the West. So I guess I'll ask Sajani first. Like, what is that something you've come across with people trying to use religion to justify, consuming animals or animal products?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a lot of arguments related to religion, and it's ridiculous that I have to say that it's an argument that comes up in Sri Lanka, because majority of the people in Sri Lanka are Buddhists, and it's not advocating violence at all. So in Buddhism, the first precept itself is refrain from killing, taking life. So it goes on to just not you directly killing an animal. It goes on to making someone kill on behalf of you. So that's the first precept that we learn in Buddhism. And also the religious text in Buddhism, it says the religious text Dhammapada, it says putting oneself in the place of another. One should not kill or cause another to kill. I mean, I've heard that in other religions as well. So it's ridiculous that people bring up this argument. I mean, the argument when it comes to Buddhism is that Lord Buddha explicitly didn't say not to eat animals, not to eat meat, but you don't have to. I mean, Lord Buddha doesn't have to explicitly mention that or state that. I mean, there's logic and you have a brain to think, right?
Yeah. You're assuming a bit too much of people, I think, with that comment. You have a brain to think. Unfortunately, I don't think you're right a lot of the time with that comment. But no, sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, that's when it comes to Buddhism. But I've heard, I can't speak for other religions, but I've heard, a lot of people bring up their religion, like it says, like you said, they bring up God to justify all the cruelty that we do to animals. And
Yeah.
I truly believe none of the religions promote violence and promote causing unnecessary harm to another being, because that's exactly what we are doing. The violence and the cruelty that we are causing to these animals is completely unnecessary. We can live, without causing all those pain and suffering.
Yeah, it's crazy that even in Buddhism that people try to find loopholes. Like in a religion like where literally the Buddha, like I believe, like directly quote or the translated quotes were like, what is it? Peace be upon all beings. Was it? Is that the direct translation? Or peace be upon all? Is it something like, or may all beings be happy, or peace be upon all beings? I can't remember, but there's some quotes where he talks about all beings. He doesn't talk about humans. He doesn't talk about people. He talks about beings, right? Is that not a quote?
I'm not quite familiar about that one, but
Yeah, I'm not either, so I'm guessing. I just thought I heard it or read it somewhere. Maybe we can find it a little bit later. Sorry?
I think you're referring to one of the quotes from Vipassana. Maybe you've heard from that. May all beings be happy.
Yes, that's from Vipassana, but I thought there was another one from Buddha. Maybe I'm mixing them. I'm mixing them up. Maybe, but anyway, I was sure there was something that Buddha had said. Well, I guess I'll I don't know. Yeah, we can find out later. It's anyway. The point is though that from my understanding, Buddha was very clear about animals. It's just that people try to pick loopholes, which is just really sad. And I also heard, I don't know if it was in Sri Lanka, but I think it happens in Thailand. Maybe it doesn't happen in Sri Lanka. You can tell me. I heard reports of the Buddhist monks where using this loophole that they wanted to eat meat, but they knew that they couldn't go and get the meat. So they were like sneakily telling people like, oh, if you bring meat, then, I can't reject it, So people were bringing it for them and they were saying, oh, well, I have to take the meat now. Oh, poor me. And this was happening. At least I know it was happening in Thailand, but I don't know if it happens also in Sri Lanka. It's
yeah, it does.
Okay.
I mean, it
yeah.
does as in like when we are like offering alms, like people should, it's actually the fault of the people. They shouldn't be going and asking them what they want for yeah, then you're encouraging them to tell you what to bring, right?
Oh yeah, that's
but that happens.
People twist these beautiful ideas, don't they? These beautiful ideologies, they twist them and make them into really horrible things like that. But Anish, I actually want to talk to you before we go to Deepika, because when I was in Nepal, I literally heard someone say, I'm a Hindu and I have a right to eat meat. I actually heard someone say that. So that was something that I've told people in India, and they don't believe me. They're like, no Hindu would ever say that. I'm like, well, someone said it to me in Nepal. So I mean, this person was like clearly like passionate about Hinduism. So could you explain that for me? Because I think a lot of people have this idea that Hindus are always against meat, but in Nepal it doesn't seem to be so clear.
Yeah, actually, I would say majority, or even I would even say all people, they don't know what religion is.
Oh, okay.
If they do it completely, totally, and honestly, and if they knew it to the core, then I think there wouldn't be anything as carnism or non-vegetarianism or non-veganism. Everyone would be vegan. I would say that.
Yeah.
I really believe that people actually don't know their religion well enough. If a person was to be religious, I think I shouldn't be talking about it because I'm not so much, I'm not clear about this topic myself. So
that's okay, man.
Putting veganism and religion together, but I think there's much connection, but it's more personal. So it's more of a personal thing than this. Yeah, you cannot relate everything to religion. Following one religion wouldn't make you a religious person.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's quite, so it's better if I don't talk about it.
It's all right, man. I get your point. You've made a point, though. It's okay. You don't need to, go into it. Your point, I think your point is valid. That people, they don't understand what they are, what they are actually subscribing to. They don't understand the ideas that they claim to follow. They have manipulated it and twisted it into something that is basically a monster. That is nothing like the original. And this is not just Hinduism or any religion. This is most religions. This is most of the organized religions. They have some very nice, some very beautiful ideas, but just because people are selfish and people want what they want, they twist and turn and try to make these religions fit to what they actually want, but rather than actually changing to what the good ideas that the religion has. I think this is quite common in most religions, and we see it when it comes to the animals, because most people, they want to eat animal products, they want to use the animals, and even if their religion says don't do that, well, they'll look for anything they can possibly see, any loophole, so they can keep doing that, right? And this is when we see Buddhists eating meat, or Hindus eating meat, when the majority of, it's very clear within those religions, if you practice them properly, that's not something that is recommended. Let's say, to put it lightly, it's not recommended. It's not advocated for. But Deepika, you were pulling a face when I said somebody in Nepal said, like, I'm a Hindu and I have a right to eat meat. You looked very shocked about that.
No Hindu would say that. At least not the Hindus I know.
So tell us a bit about how religion plays into your activism and veganism in India, like, and the challenges maybe, and some of the excuses related to religion.
Religion is a huge topic in India because we have so many. Even though minorities, number-wise, they wouldn't be minorities. So maximum would be Hindus, of course. Hindus are the majority it's the major religion of India, and then it would be Muslims, then the others. So
the others. They don't get a name. They're just the others.
No, they're very number-wise. They're very small too.
Okay.
Yeah. So with Muslims, it's usually the same, that the Quran says so, that the Bakrid and it's allowed in us, and God asks for sacrifice, all that. However, we do have in Bangalore, we have amazing Muslim activists who are vegan, and they are Muslims. They're practicing Muslims. They pray 5 times a day, and when we show that, the thing is, they give them a different name. It's like, because they're vegan and they're practicing Muslims, they're not a part of it's like, it's just I feel religion, it's mostly to feel better about yourself, that okay, I'm better because I'm following this text. Even with Hindus, that's how it is. Even the people who don't consume meat in India, who are vegetarians, they think they're not very harmful, but of course they are, because dairy industry is so huge here. And anything we talk about, the religion angle is present in every aspect here, in everything you do, even going to work and learning. The challenges we face are like, okay, Lord Krishna, there's this god who used to consume dairy. What about him? So he consumes, so I can consume. That's how it is. So it's like no, Lord Krishna, that god he had his own cows. He used to graze them, he used to take them, he used to keep them at home, and then the second thing you get is, but the tribals can't do it. I'm like, you're not a tribal, you have access to everything, you're not living in a forest. So, and third thing is, it's expensive. Like, that's the shittiest excuse I've heard. Like, veganism is expensive. I'm like, no, if you go to a vegan restaurant every other day, of course it'll be expensive. If you're eating mock meat every day, of course it'll be expensive. But our food is not, as an Indian food, is so easy. It's so easy to veganize everything. You just remove ghee, you remove butter, that's all done.
That pesky ghee. The pesky ghee, it's in everything. everything.
Ghee is in everything. Yeah, it's just there. And when you ask them, they're like, it's a little bit you can eat. I'm like, no, dear.
It's just one spoon. Just one spoon.
Yeah.
One spoon, sir. One spoon. I remember that. I've heard that sentence so many times. Is there any ghee in this? Just one spoon, sir. It's okay. One spoon. No, it's not okay. Please don't do that. Please.
Even vegans in India, they want to tell that, tell you're lactose intolerant. Don't tell them you're vegan so that you avoid it. But I personally don't like doing that. I tell people it's because of my choice. That opens up a lot of questions. I've been to restaurants where I've told I don't eat ghee or dairy, no dairy. So they ask me why. I don't tell them I'm lactose intolerant. I tell them I don't eat it because it comes from an animal. I'm a vegan, and they start asking, So I think that way it's a good this thing. But however, religion-wise, every person, like Anish was saying, it's the same in India. They don't understand what they are doing. It's just a condition. Like, okay, I've been brought up this way, so I'm going to continue doing it. But there are other people. I was one of those who there was this beef ban in India which happened. They said we're going to ban beef. It became very political, and they said, no, you can't do this. You shouldn't eat beef. It's God and all. And people go eat just so that, just to piss them off, they don't, even I personally did that. I didn't think that, okay, it was another being who was being harmed, you don't, and when you give time that thing, when you expose that, okay, see, the cow feels pain, she feels pain, she's a mother. It's like, they think it's not possible for cows to feel any kind of emotion.
Yeah.
So it's very complicated.
So it's funny that the things that you're going, apart from the religion, the religion thing is not so prevalent in the West. People are not that driven by religious ideologies, or I referred to, there's a lot of religious mythology as well in India, which drives people to make decisions, right? Based on some stories, like, kind of like, yeah, we have, religious mythology is in the Bible too, right? Of course, but it doesn't, people don't know these stories. Like if you grab someone on the street in England and say, hey, tell me a story from the Bible, they would be like, I don't know, like maybe Jesus, that's all they would know, like the story of Jesus, that's it, Whereas in India, like people seem to know like many stories about from the Quran or, from the Vedas, and they use these stories to justify what they're doing, right? So it can be quite tricky. For me, it was tricky at times. Where when that came up, I would just kind of be like, yeah, maybe you should speak to this person. And I just bring a local and they're like, okay, you guys need to talk. I don't know enough about the Vedas to comment on this, without being rude,
Yeah. No, the thing is, it's twisted and turned, or they've heard it, they've not read it themselves.
Yeah.
That's the biggest. It was like my neighbor told me, my mother told me this. We do grow up with a lot of stories, but it's mostly handed down. It's not because when I tell a story, it changes, right? I put in my mission a little bit, and then I personally, if I want to tell someone a story, I'll tell, see, Lord Krishna was like this. He wouldn't want you to harm animals.
Yeah.
That's how I would. So it's that person's perspective. I think that's the problem that happens.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny how a lot of these reasons, as I was saying, apart from the religion side of things, a lot of the excuses that we've all discussed here, it's like they are the same no matter what country you're in. You said just now, oh, well, what about the tribal people? Someone literally brought that up with me in Finland, in a city in Finland. He said, oh yeah, but tribal life and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, we're not living a tribal life. What? So it's crazy how someone here in a Finnish city says the same thing as someone halfway across the world in India. They don't know each other. They've never met each other. You probably weren't even speaking English, so they don't even speak the same language, right? This person said that to you in like I guess Hindi, and this guy said that to me in English. They don't know each other, never met each other, yet they said almost the exact same thing. It's insane, isn't it? Insane. It's crazy, right? So we've got a lot more as humans. I guess my point is we've got a lot more in common than people realize. It's not like the East is the East and the West is the West. It's like, no, we are very, very, very similar. Like I think I've explained it in the past. It's like I think I explained it in a workshop, but like it's like if we're on the mountain, if we're all on mountains, right? Like us four right now, let's imagine. We all think that our culture is very different, right? You would assume that where I'm from is very different to Nepal, and Nepal is very different to India, and India maybe is kind of similar to Sri Lanka because they're very, very close, and they were kind of similar, but still different, right? Still different. And it looks like you're also different. You know, if you were stood on mountaintops, they'd all look like they were different heights, you know, because you're all just different heights, different things. But then if you look down, you would realize that you're 6,000 feet already up. So although it looks like everything's different, we're all the same from that moment down, if you get what I mean. It's just the mountaintops that are different. It's just these slight differences in culture, but for the rest of the way, we're exactly the same. And this is why you get all of these excuses, because ultimately people are pretty much the same all over the world. It's just that, you know, little things like little cultural differences, little religious differences make them say things that are slightly different. But they always boil down to like, it's too expensive, or you know, what about the tribal people? Or, you know, it always comes to the same crap because ultimately we're all the same, you know. Oh yeah, plants have feelings though, you know, and that came up a lot more in India actually than other places because, you know, because of like I think is it Ayurvedic teachings that teach that plants actually have feelings? Is it part of Ayurveda? There was some people trying to teach me this.
Not that I'm aware of. Sorry, I don't know. But there are tribals who worship forest. But...
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. That you know, worship the forest. Yeah. We should respect all. You know, I agree with that. Respect all life. You know, like even respect the plants as well. You know, if you don't need to cut them down, don't cut them down. You know, if you don't need to sustain yourself with, you know, overconsumption, don't overconsume. Like I'm all about that, absolutely. But you know, it doesn't justify eating animals. It's a, you know, it's such a strange logic to take, isn't it? Strange logic to take.
It really is.
So what we go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I stop arguing when they say plants have feelings. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I usually use my mobile phone as an example. I say like a plant is like a mobile phone. Like my phone responds to me touching it, and it does it automatically as well without me even touching it. Just by turning it, it does something. But that means it reacts to stimuli. It doesn't mean it has feelings or emotions. It means it reacts to stimuli. That's exactly how plants. That's what they do. They react to stimuli. They don't have a capacity for emotion. If anything, your phone has more of a capacity for emotion than plants do, because these things, they are artificial intelligence and stuff. But I guess again, that doesn't mean just go and kill them. It means that you can't hold them to the same level as a bloody sentient animal. You know, that's kind of how I get into it. But yeah, I understand why you would just stop talking. I've been tempted to do that as well. Just like, okay, we're done here. You know. Did you have something to add to that, Anish? I think you've discussed this before. You have a different opinion on plant life, don't you? Right. I think I remember debating this with you.
I don't exactly remember, but yeah, I respect plants as well. You know, I cannot, you know, communicate with them, but if I could, then it would have been wonderful. Yeah.
Imagine.
Right? Imagine, they say that plants have all these networks in their root system and everything, and there are scientists who say that they actually can feel too. But when you're actually eating animals, then you're eating more plants. You know, you're destroying the forest and everything else. So that argument doesn't hold true in any sense. So it's completely nonsense.
Yeah.
You know, I eat animals because plants feel pain too. You know.
It's honestly such nonsense. It's such nonsense, isn't it?
Tell me like,
Oh, sorry, I got two of you talking at the same time. Who wants to go? Anish or DEEPIKA?
Yeah. I also wanted to tell, you know, about religion or anything else. The biggest problem here is that the people have beliefs. You know, people follow their beliefs. This is the problem, because beliefs is something that doesn't come from your experience. You know, you don't know anything but you believe.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's the word itself, you know. You don't know it, you just believe it.
Yeah, this
So when you
is
try to know it, you know, to know it, you have to be totally and completely honest to yourself first. You know, whenever you're talking to people, you know, I tell them, whatever you're saying, okay, say it to yourself 2 or 3 times in your heart. And do you actually believe in what you're actually saying? You know, when you're totally and completely honest to yourself, you actually find answers. So you don't have to argue about anything else. You know, you find the answer to yourself. So start by being honest to yourself first. So
I saw a great quote by, I don't know if you guys know Sam Harris. I made a video about him, actually bashing him a little bit, but he is actually a really good thinker most of the time, just not on that occasion. But he made a quote that is directly linked to what you're saying, Anish. He says, if you're not informed, don't have a strong opinion. And it's such a simple quote. It literally is like, if you don't know what you're talking about, don't have a strong opinion on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like for example, with just like earlier with DEEPIKA, it's like, I don't know that much about the caste system. I don't know that much about India in the systems. So I asked you some questions. I told you what I thought I knew, and then I was like, oh, I don't know shit. And I think like it's you know, I've not always been like that. I used to be an asshole. I used to try and know everything, right? But I think it's really important that people realize that this is not good, you know. And I think yeah, it's something I had to learn the hard way, you know, a really hard way. And I wish more people would also put some effort into realizing that just have a soft opinion on things you don't know much about until you know about them, and then have a strong opinion on them, you know, once you've figured it out.
I think it's okay to not know. You know, not everybody knows everything. There's so much to know, and sometimes you don't have an opinion. You don't have to have an opinion on everything. That is something I find. That's something I find a problem with this vegan community. You know, like you have to have an opinion about everything. I'm like, I don't have an opinion. It's because I don't know. I'm not experienced it to have an opinion about it. How can I comment about it? So
Yeah.
I think this comes in like, okay, you know, what do you think about this? I don't know. I don't have an opinion. People don't. It's not normal to not have an opinion, I think.
Do you know what else to add to that? Just because you have an opinion doesn't mean people should listen to you. This is the other thing I don't understand. What people, you know, we've got into this place now where, because of social media, Twitter, you know, Instagram, Facebook, people can just talk about what they're thinking all the time, and they've got into this idea, into this mindset of everybody should listen to me and pay attention to me and take me seriously, even if what I'm saying is absolute fucking nonsense. You know, I have people messaging me, trying to give me advice or criticisms or whatever, and I'm like, I say like, thank you, but no thank you. And they get so fucking angry. And it's like, look, if I don't see a benefit in what you're saying and I want to do it my way, then why are you upset about that? Like you reached out, I said, okay, thank you, but no thank you. Just move on. Like you're not owed an explanation. You're not owed anything. Just because you have a platform doesn't mean you deserve a platform, you know? And I know it sounds really mean, but I just think people have got into this really bad habit of expecting everybody to take them seriously because they have an opinion. You know, your opinion, no offense, but your opinion means nothing if you've got nothing to back it up with, right?
You can't disagree with them.
You know, yeah, it's like if you disagree with me about something, like me personally, if you disagree with me about something and you can show me, you know, like logically why you disagree with me, then I'll listen to you. But if you're just like, oh, I don't like how you do activism because it makes me feel bad, I'll tell you to fuck off. I'm sorry, like you don't deserve, you know, to be taken seriously just because you're upset. Now, being upset doesn't give you any kind of, you know, being offended doesn't give you any strength. It just makes you offended. And people should tell you to go away if you're just coming at them with emotional bullshit, you know? But yeah, this is all very harsh, I know, but I feel that we do need more of this. I feel like we're too soft as the youth of today. I think we're way too soft, and especially within the animal rights communities, we're way too soft on these things. We allow emotions to depict everything, you know?
You know, it's more like that's what we in India, we have learned this, that don't offend anyone. You know, that's how you're brought
Yeah.
up. You shouldn't make someone else feel bad. So I think that's the mentality that you're talking about here.
But they're happy to make you feel bad for making other people feel bad. You know, they'll attack you. They'll say,
Yeah.
you're a bad person. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't. But it's like, well, you're just doing what you've told me not to do. so you know, that's again a whole other topic, but something I'm definitely sick of seeing, you know, over and over again. And that's let's talk a bit more about this actually, because we're talking about the vegan, the kind of animal rights vegan movement overall. We've discussed you know, Asia now, like Nepal, Sri Lanka, India, and I know what, you know, from my experience of talking to people, my friends in the West about you know, India especially. I know what people think about India. I know what people think they know about India and you know, veganism in your part of the world. But I guess I don't really know what you think about the West. I've never actually really got into this. So I'm curious to know, like, what is your perception of veganism, like, in the West, right? Because let's be honest, it is huge, and it is kind of how, let's say, most of the organizations are in the West, the huge ones, you know, the ones that are like globally recognized, well-known, famous, popular, whatever you want to call them. Most of them are situated, you know, or were formed in the West, right? The most popular, like, let's say, like, super famous, like YouTubers, like recipe YouTubers, vegan YouTubers, all that kind of stuff, they tend to be from the West. So like, what is your perception of all of this, like, from where you're sitting? How does it look to you, like Western veganism? And we could start with, I guess, Anish. I guess you've not looked into this too much because you were telling me earlier you didn't know so much about it. So we'll come to you a bit later on, unless you want to talk about it now. Do you have any kind of perception on this?
I think Western veganism has had the most profound effect on what is happening here in Nepal or anywhere else in the world, because through internet and social media we're all connected. You know, there's no boundary as such. So I think almost everyone, there was this all these documentaries, Earthling and What the Hell, Folks Overnight, and Game Changer and everything. These documentaries and all the animal rights activists and their videos and their works. They're very inspiring and influential, and I'm very thankful to all of them. From bottom of my heart, because I think in Nepal, I don't think that I have made any difference. I have made, or any other animal activists have made any impact on many people as the Western, from social media and all the documentaries have made. So, like, I think all the credit goes to them for like bringing in veganism to speak about Nepal in Nepal, right? So,
Yeah.
really thankful to them for making all these happen. And I don't refer to myself as being an activist, because seeing all the things that they do, I haven't been able to do that here in Nepal. That's something I would love to do, but it's quite not possible for me to do it. So I really hope also in Nepal, really badass vegans come up and go out and rescue animals.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but dude, like, I think like you're making an unfair comparison really between your work and this work, because the work that you just discussed, that you mentioned, it is the most public work, right? Like making documentaries and doing street interviews and things, like, people, there are lots of people all around the world that do things that are not in the public eye. It doesn't make them any less of an activist, man. And I think you're playing yourself way down here. Like, dude, I've seen how you handle, I've seen how you talk to people. I've seen some of the things you've done, like trying to stop ritual slaughter, putting yourself at risk. You're rescuing dogs. Like, dude, I feel, it makes me feel bad that you would compare what you're doing to documentary makers and stuff like that, and say like you're not doing as much or enough. What you're doing is 100 times harder than what many, let's say, big activists are doing, man. It's just that you're not publicizing it. That's all. And that's up to you if you know, that's the difference.
Yeah, it's because there should be an end to what is happening right now.
Yeah.
And it's not happening, until there's the whole world is vegan, our effort is not enough. So,
but you're putting that effort in, is what I'm saying. So like, I'm trying to say, don't. I'm just giving you. I'm just trying to give you some advice here. Don't compare yourself to these like massive, famous documentaries and stuff like that, because I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I think there are many people in the East and the West who look to these huge. I don't know what you call them, not celebrities, but let's say big figures and like, impressive activists and impressive activism, and say, oh my God, I'm not doing enough. And that's not true. Like, you're doing what you can, and what you can is enough. Like, that it is enough. And it's so fucking important, whether it's you or whether it's somebody, whoever else in the world.
Okay. What I'm actually trying to say is that because of them, people are actually going vegan. They might have some issues with their health and all that's secondary, but for animals, people are actually going vegan at mass because of these things.
Yeah, no, totally, man.
And
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they have a big influence. Yeah, for sure, big influence. Yeah, I would hate people to look at that and think that that was the only, that's the only the only way or something. It's like, no, there's many things that you can do on a ground level that is still so fucking important, man. Like, all of it's important, whether it's social media and big documentaries, or whether it's you on the ground rescuing animals and trying to stop people from slaughtering them. Like, it's all together. It's all so important, for sure. But yeah, no, you're right. Those documentaries have been very useful, though. That's for sure. Help. Yeah. So let's go with Deepika. What are your perceptions of? Let's talk about maybe like kind of activism, communities. Like, what is your perception of it in the West, where I'm from?
I think the West is more open to it than it is here in India, because in India we have so many other issues personally as well. They wouldn't put anyone else above themselves. So I think in West the basics are set, because there are a lot of poor people in India. So I think that way, maybe I could be wrong, but that's why people are more open to even talking about animals for that matter. So and
It's
I see,
interesting.
because here the basics are not set, like you don't have many people are, under poverty line, and they first think they want to eat whatever they get, they eat. They can't think about it. So I think that way it's more easier. However, if you compare to the meat consumption or dairy consumption, I don't even know in Brazil, because in India it's crazy. But meat consumption is much lower compared to the per capita per person. It's much lower than in Western countries.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have a lot of friends in Europe, and they tell me that it's the veganism has really caught up in the last few years, especially like 3-4 years. I lived in France for a year, and I don't remember seeing the word vegan anywhere, because I think, as far as I know, France was the worst. I traveled a lot.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah, it's getting better in the big cities, I think.
Yeah, so it was like not even a vegetarian option in many places there. So I'm hearing friends like, okay, no, it's changing, you have so many options now. So I think that's something which West is catching up compared to the East.
Sure.
That's what I feel.
It's interesting, because when I visited, especially in India, I found it to be like, I found people to be far more open-minded than anyone in the West that I in terms of like percentage-wise. I felt like I don't know, maybe it's because it was the novelty of speaking to a Westerner, right? Maybe they were more interested because of that as well. I understand that there was a novelty element to it, but I did find that people But even when I listen to other people's conversations, you know, locals talking to locals, and I get feedback, hey, how was that? Like it almost always was like, yeah, it was pretty good, or like, yeah, they argued with me, but it ended up okay. Whereas like honestly, my experiences of outreach, especially in the West, it's a hit and miss. Like some days you'll have one good conversation and like 10 horrible conversations. But for my experiences outreaching in India, it was like the other way around. You'd have like one horrible one and 10, maybe even more good ones. So I don't know, maybe we're just like, maybe the grass is greener on the other side and we're just like looking at the other side saying yours is better, you know, when and in reality we're probably both in a similar position. But I felt like my general feeling of in Indian public from spending so much time, you know, talking with the Indian public and from all different places. I know you can't, you know, stereotype everybody in one box. Like you can't stereotype the West either, you know. But from my experience, I found people to be very open-minded and especially caring about animals, which in the West people pretend they care. Like they're like, oh yeah, I love animals, but when you push a bit harder, they don't. Whereas I found that in India, a lot of the time, because of their religious backgrounds, a lot of people actually had some level of respect for animals because it's what they had been taught by the parents who had been taught by their parents, and it kind of comes down in a religious way. Even though they're maybe consuming animals and animal products, they have this kind of they
You lost him?
I think so.
David, we lost you.
Yeah.
I wish we had some snacks ready. Okay,
Oh, I think he's back.
yeah, sorry about that. It just cut out again.
Yeah.
Where did you lose me?
India handing down from parents.
India having, yeah, I felt that's where I kind of it felt like to me, with a lot of people I spoke to, they had an intrinsic respect or a care for other animals, like they'd actually thought about animals before. Whereas in the West, people are normally like, oh, I've never really thought about it like that. Whereas in India, I felt a lot of people were like, oh yeah, I've thought about this before. It was kind of like just very different. Yeah, I
I
felt.
do, because you see animals everywhere here. You go out,
Yeah,
there are dogs, there
yeah,
are cats, there are cows. So, like I've
yeah.
seen people going and feeding cows, but you tell them why they're there, they get affected, they're offended, like.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. It's different challenges. It's different challenges. I don't think it's like one is better or one is worse. I think it's just very different. And then, but I personally, I enjoyed talking to people in India much more than I enjoyed talking to people in the West, because I felt like, yeah, you said there's already the base. Well, I kind of felt that way when I was in India. I felt people already had a base because like you said, they're seeing animals every day. They're like, they already, you know, try swerve them not to run them over, like because they care, you know, like, oh, I don't want to hit this animal, I don't want to hurt
Yeah.
them. This was a lot in people's minds, a lot more. Whereas in the West, they never see animals; they just see dogs. So a cow, who gives a shit? You know, a pig, I don't fucking care. I don't care about a pig. What are you talking about? Because they don't even know what a pig really even looks or even feels like. They've never even touched a pig, never seen a pig in real life, you know. So why would they care about them? This is kind of the idea. This is kind of what happens in the West, I feel. But in India, I felt most people had interacted with chickens and cows, you know. So it's a little bit, yeah, it felt it's a bit different. But
It's like,
Sajani,
it's
oh, go ahead,
harder
go ahead,
because
sorry.
it's harder because they see it, it's like they've been conditioned to see those hens in the, what do you call it, in the cages. So
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah,
affect them as much. Whereas with in the West, I think like I talk to people who turn vegan, and they
yeah.
tell me like I saw this video, like the animals were kept this way, so I couldn't do it anymore. Here it's
Ah,
like
okay.
we just condition, we see there are chicken shops everywhere. You've seen it, right? Like
Of course,
they're
yeah,
just there. So it's not something. It's harder to make them feel that okay, no, the chickens there have feel bad. They don't want to be
yeah,
there. That's not their
yeah.
habitat.
It's just a bit different. Yeah, I understand the different challenge there.
That
Yeah,
is that is humans being formed. That's not just conditioning, but that's actually, I would say that's humans being formed. To
Humans
like
being
animals actually don't know being formed. Just like animals. Animals are cure, but humans, they eventually die of some disease or something like that. They are conditioned to their core. Human beings, they don't know what they are doing. They're just told that human beings are the most intelligent beings in the planet. But do you know it for yourself if you are the most intelligent being in the planet? And we don't know that. We just believe that.
Yeah.
So, being fooled and conditioned and controlled in many ways that we don't know. So, it's
Yeah, I
just
get
like
you.
and farmed in factories. We are just we can move here and there freely. Doesn't mean that we are actually free. Psychologically, we are actually trapped in many ways.
Yeah, by marketing and psychological warfare, isn't it? Like it's
Yeah.
we're influenced by every single thing. Yeah, and how we see animals is also part of that, because it's
Yes.
profitable for us to, for us to not give a shit is profitable, so they could keep us, treating these guys like, oh my god, what are you doing, like as if they are, objects. And do you want to get down? Or do you want to stay? But yeah, Sajani, I know you've been getting involved with a little bit more. I've seen you make comments on some, I believe anyway, on some kind of like Western activism, or at least sharing some stuff from different activists and some opinions on some things. Like, what's your perception of how it is over in the West, compared to how things are in your community?
Yeah. Before I can talk about my opinion, I'll talk about how some of the people here in Sri Lanka see veganism,
Okay.
what they think about it. So I've heard arguments like it's veganism is Western propaganda, uh, and then the same people who are saying this stuff are embracing everything else that we got from the West, be it medicine, be it technology, the language itself, and what we wear, what we eat, how we eat, everything. So they embrace it, and they believe veganism is just Western propaganda. And but if we actually consider our traditional food, it's mainly plant based, and we use coconut milk in all our curries and plant based oils. Unlike the, the food that we find in the West, they have a lot of animal products in it, right? But in Sri
Yeah.
Lanka, it's predominantly plant based. And Sri Lanka used to be known as the granary of the East as well. So here in Sri Lanka, we have fruits, vegetables, and spices in abundance. We don't have to embrace all these things that come from the West. Like these people who are saying this is veganism is Western propaganda, but they're literally munching on KFC chicken and McDonald's and all of that. And they're saying veganism is it's a concept that comes from West. It's ridiculous. uh, but yeah, my perception about how I think like I'm thankful to the vegan movement in the West, because that's how we got to know about it. Because most of the people, there are many vegetarians in Sri Lanka, and we think we are doing our best. Like we think being vegetarian is enough, and we don't know the truths behind the horrifying stories behind the dairy industry and the egg industry. So uh, the reason why we learned about it is because the movement in the West. So I'm very thankful for that. And Anish said, all these documentaries have inspired so many vegans in Sri Lanka, uh, you know, to make a lifestyle decision, lifestyle change. And so I think I see it as a good thing, because at the end of the day, it is not a bad thing, because compared to all the things that we have adopted, compared to all the bad things that we have adopted from the West, veganism is a positive thing, and it liberates animals. So, but lately, I've seen in the movement, within the vegan movement in the West. I've seen a lot of unnecessary drama. I don't want to, go into specifics, but I think the our focus is deviating from animals to all the other things, and we have come a long way, and now like giving up the focus on animals and moving into other things is I think it's a distraction, and it's not fair by the animals. So that's I really hope like the movement gets back in the track and focus on the animals to liberate animals, because at the end of the day, veganism is about liberating animals, not everything else.
I want to say something. I agree, but I disagree as well. I think it's important to talk both. However, I think it's like when we talk about other rights in animal rights movement, it's equally, if not more, important to go and talk about animal rights in other movements. That is something I don't see vegans doing. They just get everything else that is there, every other problem, and come to animal rights movement. But they don't take it from here and go there and tell, okay, see, this is happening here as well, since you have to be consistent. You can't just talk about, for in India, you can't just talk about untouchables, for example, or women's issues. You have to, animal rights is also equally important. So that's where I think the problem's happening, because all the responsibility everybody is putting on animal rights activists. Like any issue that is there, okay, vegans are not doing it because I don't know, somehow they think vegans should do every possible, what do you say, activism out there.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's honestly practically impossible. However, what you can do is, I personally want to work for women as well. So what I do is I take my animal rights activism to women's rights and tell them how it's connected. I can't go fight for child rights. I can't go fight for untouchables. I can't go fight for other things that are happening. So I think that is something that is, I wouldn't call it a distraction. I'm sorry, but I think this is the problem. That's my personal view.
Yeah, I mean, it is actually, I mean, I'm not arguing, but it is actually
No, I
up to
understand.
the each individual to choose what they want to, fight for, right? And what I say is like, nobody should force it on you to fight for every right in the world, right? And
Yeah.
like creating that kind of pressure only distracts everyone, and it stresses everyone out, right? And you're thinking
True.
to yourself like, oh,
Yeah.
am I not doing enough? Is this
Yeah.
wrong to only
Yeah.
talk about animals?
Yeah.
It's everybody's personal thing, because I think because of all these opinions, the movement is getting
Divided.
divided. Exactly. So
Yeah.
that
See, that's
we are not
why.
doing
Yeah. Sorry.
right by the animals, and I agree with your point. Like, it has to be a two-way street, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we talk about other rights, and the other movements should also talk about veganism, but
Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
But the thing is, when you tell this that it's okay to not talk about other things, it's not taken very well in the animal rights movement is what I see, because sometimes I have had people jump on me for a lot of things, like, no, you can't say this, why are you saying this, you should post this. One of my friends was like, actually she refused to make a post about something, and some person who is intersectional, and who says, I'm intersectional, so you should do this, you should do this, she refused to post it, and he's like, she's a fake activist, like that kind of negativity. There's so much toxicity there. So that is something I think we should, like, not focus so much on. And uh, us especially, like, we have so many issues. If you want to put animals forward and fight for more for animals, I think that should be okay. I don't know why that becomes such a huge issue.
The reason
Yeah.
it becomes an issue is because there is a narrative that has worked its way into our movement, and this narrative it says that silence is violence, right? So they say that if you don't say anything, you are just as bad as a perpetrator. Like, and this is so fucking stupid. So this is why people get so angry, because they say, wait a minute, you're an animal rights activist, but you don't talk about women's rights. You don't talk about Black Lives Matter. You don't talk about children's rights. You don't talk about the slave trade in Africa that's still going on, by the way. You don't talk about the human trafficking. You don't talk about the caste system. If you're silent on those topics, then you are just as bad as the people who are perpetrating those injustices. And this logic is, as I just said, is fucking ridiculous. This is why people are trying to force you to talk about everything, because they truly believe that by you not talking about it, that you're committing some kind of violence. So when I say, or when I don't say anything about a certain thing, people assume that means that I support the perpetrators. And it's like, no, it's just I have made a conscious decision to focus on what I want to focus on. It doesn't mean that I am against women's rights. Or like, are you crazy? What kind of psychopath would say I'm against women's rights? Or what kind of psychopath would be against women's rights? I mean, it's insane to jump to that conclusion. It is the irrational mind that jumps to a conclusion like that. And unfortunately, these people that are doing this, they are irrational people, and they're not intersectionals. As I've been through this in a video, they're ideologues. There's a big difference. In intersectional, I know many people who are intersectional, and they have used, taken the ideology, they've applied it in a beautiful way, and they get shit done. And then there are ideologues, which spend all their time posting stories like the one I posted today of someone telling me that me doing this live stream was a part of internalized racism. They said that by me doing a live stream with you, I am somehow advocating internalized racism. They're fucking idiots, and they're ideologues. And these are the people that, what you're talking about here, when you're both mentioning these people, you've both been like attacked, or you're both seeing them attacking others. That's what we're talking about. That's who we need to reject, And I agree with both of you. I think you're both right. I mean, you're both reasonable people. Clearly, you know what I mean. You're speaking rationally, so it's hard to disagree with you. And I think we need more of this. Just be rational, be reasonable, right?
And I think, David, it's okay to disagree. I mean,
of course, yeah.
You might have a difference. You might have a difference of opinion, but as long as we are not harming anyone, I think it's okay to disagree. It's fine. It's normal to disagree. We're humans.
Exactly.
We don't agree on everything.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean you hate each other. And it doesn't mean that if you, God, I mean, I've seen some things. I mean, we're getting into something else here, but I've seen some things where people who say I don't support, let's say, a certain organization. Let's not name names, but there's a certain organization that people are told they have to support, and if you don't support them, you're a racist. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. Like, you can withdraw support for an organization and still be against racism. Like, I can say I don't support PETA, but it doesn't make me an anti-vegan. You know what I mean? It's insane. It's insane. But there's a lot of this going around, and yeah, I plan to talk a lot about. But this is not what this live stream is for. So let's not get into it here. But we are going to touch on something kind of linked to this. Unless, Anish, did you have anything to add to that before we move on?
I don't think I have much to say about it. Yeah,
that's all right, man. Cool. So we'll kind of link. This is kind of linked. This is the only real controversial point I wanted to discuss with you. Everything up until this point has been really nice, beautiful, by the way. Amazing to learn about your respective countries and experiences. And I really hope people have connected here and learned something today about veganism in your part of the world. But let's talk about something that's a bit controversial, okay? So this is my personal observations, and I'm going to put them out to you, and you can tell me, you respond however you would like to respond. So I've been experiencing on my Instagram especially a load of different people, both vegan and non-vegan, that have basically been like using people that live in developing countries as an excuse for people not to go vegan, or as an excuse for themselves not to go vegan. And as I said, this is almost always Western vegans. I don't think I've ever seen anyone not from the West making this kind of excuse. And this is vegans making these excuses on behalf of people living in developing countries. So not even like they are themselves living in one of those countries. They're making excuses for people living in those countries to say why they couldn't go vegan, even though they themselves are a vegan, or they're not vegan and they're using these individuals as an excuse as why they shouldn't go vegan. So, you know, as obviously some of you are living in what would be considered a developing country, I don't really like saying that. It seems like it seems like it's a negative thing. It's just but it's just factual, right? Some countries are in that bracket, let's say. What do you think about this? About people using that, and you know, vegans especially using that? I'd like to get your thoughts on it.
It's ridiculous to say the least, because Indian food is like so plant-based. It's like you were saying, the ghee. If you remove the ghee, it's vegan. And every whatever we eat, I just talk about the food animals here. I don't want to go into the non-food animals. So whatever we eat here, it's like breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's usually, if you see a thali, it's a dinner plate. You see like rice, chapati, or one dal and one curry. Usually the curry is meat. Not usually, like people who eat meat, they prefer meat there. So it's like you just remove the curry, put vegetables. So I don't know why people think that in developing countries people eat a lot of meat, because if you see the data, then it's the Western countries who are consuming like crazy amounts of meat, not the Eastern countries. So I don't know, especially the vegans. I don't know how vegans are coming up with such a excuse. I don't know what to call it. So
It's an excuse, yeah.
it's like it's. I'm sorry. In at least developing country in India, it's very easy.
Okay.
Being plant-based, I won't say vegan. Plant-based is very easy.
Sure. Cool. Okay. Anybody else got some comments about this? Anish, you were asking me a lot about this earlier, actually. You were asking, you know, before we got on the live stream, I gave you kind of the lowdown, explained this a bit more to you. So what do you think about this, about vegans and non-vegans using this as an excuse?
Yeah, I think it's totally weird, how people put their opinion about something that they don't know anything about, right? And also that I totally disagree with this term, categorizing people or places, countries, in terms of like being developed or underdeveloped, rich or poor, because people are actually comparing everything else with money, in terms of money, right? And this is, I think, being, meat industry as a whole, it's all about money and nothing else. It's about marketing, it's about brainwashing people, conditioning them, and everything. And the core of it is all money. And so I totally disagree with this term. Like my country being a poor country or developing country. Uh, the Western world being, rich country or a developed country. We should actually strive for being a good human. We should actually be more evolved than we are right now. So this is where the world should be leading. Where all humanity, all the people should be putting their effort on. Being more evolved, not being rich. So so it's quite absurd to me, like we've had this discussion, like before this live video. I find it very weird that people think about like what you said. I really find it's very new to me, and I find it very weird why people, get excuse to like not being vegan, because like in the developing countries, it's more difficult to be vegan. It's not true at all. You can be vegan everywhere and anywhere.
I think it's
Awesome, man.
similar to Indian saying like tribal people can't be vegan, so I won't be vegan. So I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you've nailed it there. Actually, yeah, that's a great point. Sajani, I know you've got an opinion on this.
I mean, yeah, it's an absolutely ridiculous statement coming from a vegan or a non-vegan. I mean, firstly, it's very absurd to assume that a person from a third world country like Sri Lanka or India, we don't have the same level of moral conviction or the logic, as someone would in the Western world. And second of all, plant-based diet is one of the cheapest you can get anywhere. I mean, obviously, if you don't go to fancy vegan restaurants, the cheap, like the rice and curry you get in Sri Lanka, that is predominantly the main thing that people eat in Sri Lanka. So that's the cheapest thing anybody can have. And I remember like growing up, that was like 10, 15 years ago, like meat, chicken and fish were like a luxury to people, even in Colombo. And still, even today, there are like rural areas in Sri Lanka where people really can't afford meat, and they're predominantly eating grains, legumes, vegetables, and fruits. So that's what they can afford. So I wouldn't really agree with that statement that it's actually not only the people in the West. I would say there are people here right here in Colombo who would say, what about the people in Yemen? What about the people in Haiti? Like, they have so many issues.
Yeah.
And how is this a valid argument for you to not be vegan, right?
Yeah. That's funny, it's like the perception, isn't it? It's like the perception of Westerners is that people living in, let's say, India can't go vegan, and the perception of people in India is that people in Haiti can't go vegan, and the perception of people in Haiti that people in some, maybe they've got their place where they say people can't go vegan. And I guess it just keeps, everyone's got their other country where they imagine that it's just so impossible. Everybody's so, it's so difficult. Like that's a really good point. It's the same excuse. It just changes in each country to like a different country. Yeah.
My partner is tribal, so his house they eat meat like once a week. That's the norm. That was the norm. So and the rest of the week it's mostly plant-based. So it's even them, like with the tradition of hunting and all of that, it's just once a week. It's not. It's never seldom more than that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very lame or shitty excuse, to.
I agree.
Even the tribals here, they don't eat that much meat. They don't. And whatever they eat, it used to be for survival because they lived in forests. They used to hunt and eat. So.
I agree. I mean, it's no surprise to anybody who's watched any of my videos that I 100% agree with everybody here. And I've argued this point, and I think at least Deepika, I think you've been involved in some of my comment sections where I've had to I've tagged you and been like, hey, can you please tell this person that like I'm not lying? Like they seem to think oh, you're just a white savior, privileged, blah blah blah. You're saying shit. And it's like, no, I've been and lived in India for a long time, and I've spoken to many people about this exact topic. I'm not ill informed on this, but yeah, people reject me when I say these things because of being a white guy. So it's refreshing to hear that that you agree. Really, it's I didn't actually know if you would agree or not. We didn't plan this, by the way. Anybody watching this wasn't planned. I genuinely asked that question for the first time, and this is what we got. So I feel better about saying this now. I'll be stronger when people come up with this bullshit, for sure. So I appreciate that. And I hope again, I really hope people watching this realize and learn something from that, to stop saying this. If you are saying this, stop trying to use people from other countries to excuse other people from not going vegan. It's just ridiculous. It's a really ridiculous, and it's offensive. As Sajani, as you were saying, it's offensive to assume that somebody in a different country wouldn't go vegan. They're as if they can't have the same morals as somebody in your country. It's just offensive. And It's called bigotry. Soft bigotry of low expectations is the official definition of what this is. Which I'm going to do a video on that soon, so I'll save the rest of that information for that video, as it's quite a lot to explain. So we've got two choices now. We're up to 2 hours, so it was kind of more or less where we expected to finish. We can either finish, or we can open up and let people ask some questions. So we can do a vote if you want. If anyone's too tired, you can go, or if you want to stay, you can stay, or we can all go now. So does anybody want to stay and do some questions?
Yeah, I would like to.
Everybody wants to stay. Awesome. Okay. Anish, I thought you were looking a bit sleepy, actually. I was giving you an easy way to get out if you wanted to go.
I'm a listener.
Good, man. Okay, cool. All right. So we're opening up to questions then. So I'll just type it in so people can ask questions. So please, if you have any questions, okay, let's just do this. Please ask now. We'll answer them. I'll try and pin that. Can I pin that comment? I don't even know how this works, to be honest. All right. So I guess we're a little bit delayed, by the way. There's a bit of a delay. So we'll just have to wait for a few moments whilst they get the message that we're taking questions. In the meantime, I guess we can just chat as normal, and I will check to see if any questions come up. So how has this been for you anyway? Have you enjoyed it so far?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surprisingly better than I thought.
Oh, thanks. You're thinking it was going to be bad, huh?
No, I thought I would be nervous, but it was.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Don't worry. No, I always get nervous before these two. You know, I said to you, if you're not nervous, then it's kind of bad, right? I mean, if you're not nervous and excited and anxious, then why are you bothering doing it? It's you're not passionate about it, are you? If you're not nervous. So I've done these a lot, and I still get nervous. So the Iron Gamer is asking a question. He wants to know if he's asking me, on the topic of approach, will you do a live stream panel with Earthlinger, Joey Carbstrong, Gary Yourofsky, or a balanced panel? If you could get me on a live stream with those people, of course I would do a live stream with those people. That would be awesome. But like, they're not necessarily the most accessible people in the world. Like, you can't just grab them for a live stream, you know. Joey, probably. I could probably get Joey on for a live stream if he makes some time for, he's a very busy guy, but the rest of them, no chance. No chance of getting Gary, no chance of getting Ed on a live stream. Not for me anyway. I could never do that. I guess, somebody who's got more, I don't know what you would call it, like somebody who's got more followers, more reach or something probably could, but definitely not me. Unfortunately, I would try, but I think it would be futile. All right. They're asking me questions. Stop asking me questions. Ask the guests questions. This is we got guests here. Okay, DEEPIKA. Miriam wants to know about the ban on cattle slaughter.
Okay. Whether it's happening in India?
Just about it, I guess. Like about what's going on, kind of. Yeah.
Okay. It's a very political topic, political and religious. They want to ban, but I don't know. They want to ban slaughter, but it's the dairy industry. We are the most dairy industry is at the top of the world. We are the most dairy consuming country, the country in the world. So it is they want to ban slaughter, but the dairy consumption they don't plan to reduce it. So I don't know how it's going to work.
Okay, so it's a bit up in the air then, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and Sajani, the same question actually, because you also talked about the ban on the cattle slaughter.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw this post being shared, like a lot of people, a lot of non-vegans, and vegans also, being pretty excited about this. And in Sri Lanka, for some reason, people see eating cows as a not a nice thing to do, but eating a chicken is okay. I think bigger the animal, it's they feel not comfortable with eating a bigger animal for some reason. So but yeah, I mean, like I said, like as explained in my post, it's actually in Sri Lanka, as far as we know, the cattle is not being raised for meat. It's the dairy cows who are, the spent dairy cows who can no longer produce milk, and also the male calves that are being, that are going to the slaughterhouse. So just because they ban it in Sri Lanka, within the country, ban, slaughtering of cows within Sri Lanka, it doesn't mean that it stops. As long as the dairy industry, prevails in the country, these animals, they have nothing to do with these animals. The male cows are not profitable to the industry. The spent dairy cows are not profitable. So obviously they're going to end up in slaughterhouse, whether it's in Sri Lanka or some other country. They will definitely be exported, which means more torture to the animals. Like, live export is not a nice thing to experience, right? So yeah, that's my opinion about it.
Yeah, it's really sad how something that could be seemingly positive actually can cause more suffering. It's really
And
rough.
I think it'll lead to more in India. It will surely lead to more illegal smuggling and slaughtering of the
It will,
animals. It's already happening. In some states, it's banned, so they take the animals to the neighboring state to get them slaughtered. My friends keep rescuing the calves and cows. So
Yeah, this is something I've had some debates with about for this exact reason, because there are some groups in the West who are focusing on the systemic problems. They're saying like we need to change the system before we can get animal liberation. Like, whereas I believe that before we can really hope to make any systemic changes, we need to have the people want it, right? Because if the people don't want the system to change, but the system changes, then the system just goes underground. It keeps going.
yeah,
But now it's got no one. It's got no veterinary checks. It's got no hygiene laws. They're going under the law from there, or what do you call, above the law, under the law, whatever. They're not going by the law. So it just gets, the system continues, but it just gets horrific. Even more horrific than it already is. And this is what you see in, like you were saying, in countries that ban beef. Well, the people revolted. They rejected it. And they kill more animals to say fuck you to the government, right? So and they do it illegally. They, like you were saying, they export them, they transport them illegally, and all these things. So that for me is a huge risk of these activist groups who just don't want to focus on the public anymore, because without changing the hearts and minds of the public, this happens because they still want the meat and they'll keep demanding the meat, and the providers will just look for other ways they can do it. It's very sad. All right, so oh, sorry, go ahead,
yeah,
man.
it's totally illegal in Nepal to slaughter cows. So it doesn't happen here in Nepal, but it's not in any ways a good situation here, because we've had news that lots of people uh, they just find ways to kill cows. There was this huge news that many cows were abandoned in a forest, where they had nothing to eat, and some of them were like thrown out from high cliffs just for them to die. And such things happen here. So, like, even if it's illegal to kill cows, they find some ways or the other to like harm them and get rid of them when they are no longer of use to them. So,
Yeah.
like, legality, rules, and yeah, it helps, but it's people who have to wake up to these things.
For sure, man. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. There was Apollo just made a comment. He just wanted to say that about earlier when we were talking about me having a better experience in the East with outreach. He was saying that maybe it's because being an English speaker made people want to listen more because of being an outsider. The attraction of being an outsider, which I totally agree with. I think that absolutely is something that could have most definitely played into it. But because it's people are interested, so yeah, I understand. And also I think also, like, being completely honest, I think most of the time with myself and Annie, it was we're covered like head to toe in tattoos, so I think most of the time people were also like, oh, tattooed people, like, also like they wanted to talk to us, so it was quite a useful thing just to be like, hey, okay, whilst you're here, let's talk about veganism. So yeah, there's no denying that. I'm not going to pretend that that wasn't happening. Of course it was happening. So, it was fine. There's a good question here for everybody, apart from me, which is good. Where did it go? I saw it. I want to make sure I ask it properly. Yes. What are the most popular vegan treats in your countries?
Vegan treats,
Vegan treats.
like food.
Yeah, like food treats, like, sweets or treats, things that you wouldn't eat every day, things that you eat at special occasions.
I think tarts would be a vegan treat.
Chat, is that?
Yeah, that is. I don't know
Explain
how
that to people that don't know what it is.
It's this, I don't know, it's this fried thing where they put this peas curry on top, and then you add a lot of onions, and then the fry-ins. Yeah, so
Cool.
that is something vegan. The sweet dish where I come from the coastal India, so we eat a lot of coconut. So the coconut pudding is vegan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next? Vegan treats.
Okay.
You going, Anish?
Yeah. But
I thought you were
lots of
going.
things in my mind, like I really like vegan like cheesecakes. I make them myself, and yeah, cakes, vegan cakes, chocolate cakes, and everything. We also have vegan chocolates here, and everything. I don't miss anything at all. Going
Nice.
vegan, like it's super easy now. So like the thing that comes to my mind would be, yeah, the cheesecake, vegan cheesecake.
Nice, man. You're lucky you've had Buddha, not the Buddha, but like a guy called Buddha. I'm just making clear for everybody. A guy called Buddha. He's a manager of this place called French Bakery, which is not a vegan place, but he has a big interest and passion for vegan cooking. So he would basically, you give him an idea and he'll make it for you. Even if it's like something crazy, he basically bake or cook most things that you would request. So that's in Kathmandu. So you're quite lucky to, even before veganism got big, like he was doing that, right? He's been doing that for years. So I think that's really, really cool that you've had access to that guy and his awesome little cafe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the treats, man. Those treats. He made some awesome cakes in that place. Yeah. Cool. Sajani?
I wish we had vegan cheesecake here in Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, we don't. But I mean, a lot of our traditional sweets are anyway vegan. They're mainly like made from coconut milk. So it's to name a few. Dodol is one of my favorite. It's like I can't compare it to something. It's a very chewy thing, and it's made from coconut milk and a lot of traditional sweets. But then, I before going vegan, my favorite food used to be pizza, and I'm so thankful that we have vegan pizza in Sri Lanka. So but currently it's post. But I used to enjoy it a lot, and they make their own cheese, and it is so good. And that because being vegan, I really didn't miss it because they actually made one of the best pizzas you can have here in Sri Lanka. So
was this the vegan or the VOV are we talking about here?
The vegan doesn't have pizza yet.
Okay.
but yeah.
So Shashikan, VOV.
Shashikan. And but at the vegan, they have this amazing crispy mushroom burger and an omelette burger. I love
nice. We're talking about restaurants, by the way. If anyone doesn't know, there's two one now, but there were two vegan restaurants in Colombo. One called the VOV and one called the Vegan. Really creative name. That one.
Right,
but both
face.
pretty cool. Yeah, but you know what? Actually, the best food that we had was in Sri Lanka was in Kandy. There is a place called the Soya Center,
So I think,
and yeah, and they have soya ice cream,
oh my
which
gosh,
if
yeah.
oh my god, it's so good. And they also had these snacks that were like they were Sri Lankan snacks, but they were kind of like they're very similar to Indian snacks, like samosas and stuff, right? But they were everything was vegan, so you could just have this full counter of snacks and just like, oh, I'll have one of those, two of those, two of those. Well, it's all super cheap, like really good prices because it was local prices, not for foreigners. It wasn't like a tourist place, and the ice cream was like a little bit more expensive, but like still really reasonable. So you just get yourself like full meal and desserts all in one place, and it's all vegan. So that place was really cool. Yeah, really pumped about that. Well, I missed that. I missed those snacks and the ice cream. Yeah, big time. All right, let's see. We've got more questions. Let's see if there's anything. I'm just gonna go back up. Somebody asked me, Danuka asked me, of all the Asian countries, where do I see the most potential for a vegan boom? A vegan boom. I would say India, but I'm biased because I spent so much time in India. You know, if I spent more time in Nepal or more time in Sri Lanka, maybe I would say one of those countries. But I spent the most time working in India. I'd say, you know, from my experience, India has the biggest network of vegans out of the three countries, the biggest support system. Like Indian vegans will travel all over the country just to support other Indian vegans. It's so cool, and I know you do that in Sri Lanka also, and I guess you do that sometimes in Nepal too. But in India, there are literal like people that do this like almost constantly. Which I think is really, really nice that people, you know, there's a few people I met who are basically always moving around to go and support other teams and stuff. And it's really cool. I think India's got a really big chance of a big boom. But in Nepal and Sri Lanka, I couldn't comment. I really didn't spend long enough there, in my opinion. So I couldn't comment. What do you think? I mean, do you think, based on what I've just said, like, would you say like Nepal or Sri Lanka, or do you disagree with me, Deepika? Like that India could have a big boom. Like, what do you think about this?
India, I don't know. I really don't know. I
That's
hope there
okay.
is though.
To be fair,
hope so.
I'm speaking from a different place to you, though. I traveled the entire country basically and met like almost every vegan in the country. So like, of course, I see things differently. That's what I'm basing it on. Like more than anything. Maybe I'm too optimistic. I don't know.
But if there is a change, it's gonna be really slow, is what I feel.
Okay.
And comparatively, I think it would be India.
Why? So why do I think? Did you ask?
Yeah.
No,
Why do
I
I
said comparatively, I think, you know, it would be India. I would go for
Okay.
India. India would have this, you know, vegan boom or
Yeah. Yeah. So Johnny, what do you think? Is Sri Lanka? Do you think there's a chance of a boom in Sri Lanka? Do you think it's got the means to blow up the movement, the veganism?
I don't really know. Sometimes I feel like, you know, seeing a lot of vegans, I feel like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of vegans now, and you know, it'll you know, explode sometimes. But then sometimes I feel like when I like personally, you know, meet a group of people, I'm like the only vegan there. So I feel like, oh my gosh, you know, we have a long way to go. So
Sure. Okay. Cool. Another question. And it says the Iron Gamer. What areas in India have the most vegans? I guess I would ask you, Deepika, but if you're not sure, I can give my answer. What do you think? Where are the most vegans?
I think in the South India.
Sure. Cool.
I don't know.
Yeah,
What do you
I
think?
wasn't sure, like, if you would know, because I guess I don't know how much you've been around and you know, and been to other parts of the country to see that, you know.
I think Pondicherry and Goa.
Okay, cool. I think Goa, there's potential for Goa. I mean, my personal experience was that Delhi had the most vegans. It was insane. Like, we did a workshop and 50 people came. So I mean, that's insane. Like, you know, that's yeah, it was so good. So I feel like there was, but that's my personal experience. For my entire experience of India and going and trying to meet up with every different activism vegan group. Delhi was by far there were the most vegans by far in Delhi, but yeah, it could be. That's my assumption based on some experience. Okay, what are we looking at, CC? Okay, we've got a good question from Kevin. This is for all three of you. Have you convinced your parents to become vegan? And how have their reactions been when you've tried to talk to them about it?
Maybe. Want to go first?
Well, you started talking, so I guess it's you.
Yeah, I do that every time. Okay? My mom she's become vegetarian, and when everyone eats at home, it's always vegan. There's no like non-vegan food coming in the house.
Cool.
But when they eat outside, they're vegetarian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Okay.
my sister, yeah, I used to work for a project, for OWA, Open Wing Alliance, and my sister, she's a graphic designer. I asked her to make some infographics and something about eggs, and now she's almost become vegan. She only eats biscuits. She doesn't care about the ingredients, which has milk products like milk solids in it. So that's far as far as I've convinced my families or my parents being a vegan.
Sure. Cool. And what about Deepika? Yeah, go ahead then. You started talking.
No, my family, no, not at all.
No.
My parents, I tried, I explained it to them. My mother said that you're lying. It's like this
Lying.
doesn't happen. Yeah, because my mom used to live in a village and it was different then when she was young and they used to have cows and the way they were treated. My mother's a vegetarian. My parents are vegetarians, so they still think it's like how it used to be like 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
They tell me I'm lying. So and they even tell me when I show them the videos, they told me like I can't be as extreme as you are. So, family is the hardest.
Well, that's I mean that's no surprise to me. Like families, families and friends are the toughest by
Yeah.
far people to talk to, which is why I usually recommend people don't talk to them if they don't want to talk to you. Just talk to other people because it's too close. It's too close to you. That can really have a nasty impact on your life if you fall out with them, and then you can't outreach anyone. Then you can't talk to anyone if you don't feel good. So, Sajani, how's it been for you?
My parents, my father has always been a vegetarian, so my mother has had to naturally be a vegetarian, at least at home. So because we never brought animal products home, like meat and fish, that kind of stuff home. So, but since I became vegan, there haven't been slowly been reducing the dairy consumption as well. So and they're using like other things like for morning tea, instead of having morning tea, they have these herbal things to drink, and I'm really happy about that. Then my siblings, that's a whole different story. I don't even want to get into that because I think it was you, I think, David, who told me like I think I asked you this question once before, like how do you convince your family and friends to be vegan, and you told me that if you can't, if they're already opinionated, just don't do that, don't get into that, because it creates uncomfortable environment, and
Yeah.
they find they find comfort in the relationship that you have with them, and they disregard your opinion. So
this is it. Yeah, this is it, and it's a really strange. When I tell people this, they really don't like it. But at the end of the day, like, as I really do stand by it, and that it can really ruin your life and your relationship and your comfort just being at home. If you're not comfortable at home, you're not going to be comfortable anywhere else, are you? And you're useless to the animals. If you can't, you know, have a home where you feel like, you know, okay, there's no fighting here, then when you try and talk to anybody else about the animals, you're going to be useless, you know? So I do truly believe that if they're not listening to you, if it's not going well, it's best to drop it and save your energy for people who are going to listen to you, who are a little bit like not as close to you, you know, and not able to get in your head as much as your family can, you know? We have a question. Let's go for this. It's more controversial. As somewhat, it's Danuka, I guess, Danuka again. To all three guests, in your countries, do you get more male or female vegans, and why? It's an interesting question.
Females.
I don't know why, but yeah, it's female.
Female,
Yeah.
Deepika, female?
Yeah.
Sajani?
Males, at least the people I personally know, the vegans that I personally know are mostly males.
Okay. Interesting. Deepika, interesting that you say females, because Annie and I noticed on more than one occasion that when we went to certain places, there were way more guys. Like we even had some events where only guys turned up. We were really shocked.
Guys turn up more, but there are more vegan women.
Oh, got it. Okay, more male activists than you think. Is that what you?
No, I wouldn't say that, but
Okay. They just turn up more. They come to events more.
Yeah, they come
That's
to
funny.
events more, I think.
That's
Yeah.
funny. Okay, well, why? Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you continue.
I was gonna say, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think there are? Okay, let's go. 2 questions for you, Deepika. 2 questions. Why do you think there are more females that are vegan in India? And secondly, why do you think the males turn up to events more than females? Because that's a strange. Isn't that a weird 2 things? You know.
I think women, I don't know. It's really weird. I find it very weird that there are more women who are vegan than men. But why do men turn up more? I think it's more to do with the social structure of our country. Men are more outgoing, and maybe that's why women usually don't go out as much. So
Yeah, more to
maybe
do with
that's
like the expectations of
social.
society kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Also, it's and with women, I think it's more the compassionate side which takes them. I don't know. Actually, 6 of my friends turned vegan after I went vegan. All were
Wow.
women.
Wow.
Not one guy told me I'll even try, but all were women. All have gone vegan.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Anish, why do you think it's all? It's not all. Sorry. Why do you think it's mainly women in Nepal who go vegan?
I think it's pretty much the same reason that Deepika. Yeah, I think it's maybe they're more compassionate. They're more altruistic and emotional, and maybe they have. I don't know with men. I don't know what's wrong.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I think.
It's strange, right?
I think guys have got this whole.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there are lots of beings as well, but yeah, women are like there are many women that I know are vegan than males. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Strangely,
do
the plants have sorry.
the what? Sorry.
Strangely, the plants have feelings. I usually get it from males, not.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny. I don't know why. I'm going to do a video on this topic, not necessarily this topic, but I'm going to do a video on about. It's going to be, the title will be something like "Being a Manly Man," being a vegan manly man, or something like that, or something really sarcastic. And in the video, I'm just going to be very like, "Yeah, I'm a man, vegan, yeah," like I'm just be like proper asshole, basically. And basically, I think I'm going to point out in this video like about this. I'm calling out the macho bullshit. This is what I'm doing with this video, calling out the. Like it's not macho to pay someone to kill baby animals for you. You know what I mean? That's not masculine. That's not a trait of someone who's a strong man. That's the trait of someone who's a coward and a violent, horrible person. Like you pay someone to do that. It's not. These aren't traits to be proud of. So I'm going to kind of focus on how I don't know. the whole identity thing is all, and that's a big debate, right? But for me, like, I believe that true masculinity is caring. It's using your power to help. That's what I believe the definition, or like how I see it. So that's what a lot of men get wrong. They think meat is manly when it's the complete opposite of what it means to be, manly. Because because what does that mean anyway? But you get my point, right? It's not a strong thing to do. It's a very weak thing to do, to kill baby animals to eat them, or any animal.
Giving into your greed. Yeah.
What was that? Sorry.
Yeah, it's totally giving in to your greed.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And Sajani, why is it more men in Sri Lanka, do you think? That's an interesting, you're the odd one out here.
I don't know, it's strange actually. I mean, I really don't know the reason. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there is. I mean, I don't know what that Danuka was expecting with the answer to this. I mean, I guess we could theorize, we could guess, but realistically, we don't know for sure why that would happen. Yeah. I think what you said, Deepika and Anish, about women being more, let's say, empathetic. I think that's definitely true. In the general sense, obviously there are men who have a lot of empathy, but they're kind of not encouraged to be empathetic. Men encouraged to bottle it up and be a man, and all that crap. So it's a little bit, that explains some of it for sure. But whether that is the reason or not, I guess we just don't really know. We just have to kind of guess, really, without any data, without any kind of studies or anything like that. But all right, what else do we have? Let's maybe do what should we say? It's been a while now, hasn't it? Should we maybe do like 2 more questions? Do you think, is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do 2 more then, just to give somebody a chance. All right, I'm only going to pick the most interesting ones. Okay, I'm sorry if that's not yours, but if you want to ask something now that's really interesting, you could do it quickly, because I'm going to pick one, and I'm going to pick 2, and we're going to go for it. All right. So I've just lost. Am I still here? Yeah. Okay. Good. I lost the internet for a second. All right. Okay. Second to last question is coming up right now. Paul asks, do you think educating students from a younger level at schools about the benefits and the impact of veganism is a plausible idea?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, isn't it, for me?
It's a no-brainer, yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I built up that question. I made it seem like it was going to be a big dramatic question, but in the end it was quite a simple one. What were you saying? Is this Sajani? Were you talking?
Yeah, it's interesting that like in Sri Lanka we find a lot of young people who are becoming vegan, turning vegan, who are like still studying in school, and they are open to these novel things anyway, right? They have an open mind, and they themselves find information, and we don't even have to do any convincing. It's interesting that, and I really think it's important that we focus on the young generation.
Absolutely, yeah. They don't have they haven't been indoctrinated yet, that's important. Once they've been indoctrinated, it becomes very difficult to actually to discuss these things without getting a load of crap, basically. And Anish, do you agree? Is there anything do you disagree with anything here?
Yeah, I agree that everything starts from education when you're a kid, And I also think that even if you don't preach about veganism in schools, what you should do is take out things like, in section, they should not put any animal in stuff, right? When you're in like kindergarten, or when you say food, all the vegetables and fruits, and then come meat, eggs, and dairy. So just don't put those stuff in the textbooks. Then children are automatically vegan.
Yeah, they're not taught bad information. Then, yeah, absolutely.
Yes, Mm-hmm.
avoid the bad information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. I want one more question, but like there are some questions, but we've kind of already answered them, unfortunately. So if there's no more kind of new ones, I think let's just do this. I'll finish on my question that I had for everybody here, just to round things off. Do you believe we will ever see a vegan world in our life? No, yeah, in our lifetime, will we see a vegan world?
Can I go first?
No.
Yes, you can. Wow, look at that. Finishing by going fast. I love it.
No, I mean, I do believe in a vegan world, but I don't think, unfortunately, I don't think we will live long enough to see that, because veganism is not just a diet, right? It goes beyond what we eat. It goes into what we wear, testing on animals, and clothing, and a lot of things that we don't really think of, and we even, like, farming, veganic farming. I don't think we will live long enough to see all of that happening. But I think, like, if we, like, don't deviate from our course and keep doing what we are doing, and passing this momentum to the younger generation, there will there someday be a vegan world, because since I became vegan, even like just for these 2.5 years, I've seen lots of vegan options being introduced to hotel chains and restaurants in Sri Lanka, and then a small, even startups, as in like small local businesses that are introducing, like, locally made mock meat, cheeses, and plant-based butter, all these things that are happening. So I mean, it is a slow progress compared to a lot of other countries, but it's just saying that in this country, I really truly believe that it will reach there. In terms of in terms of diet, it will happen much faster, but in terms of all these other things that we do to animals, like testing on animals, and confining animals in zoos, and domesticating wild animals, and breeding pets, breeding companion animals, all those things are like against the ethics of veganism. So those things will eventually happen, but I think a lot of people will choose to have, like, live on a plant-based diet much sooner.
Okay, that's a very well thought out answer. Lots of elements to it. It's really good. I appreciate it. You put a lot of thought into that. It shows for sure. I agree with it mostly. Yeah, I agree with all of it, actually. I would add something to it, but I'll wait to give my opinion, because I want to know what Anish thinks about it first.
Okay. I have a very strong hope for it. Maybe in my lifetime, or in our lifetime, maybe we could see people, majority of them being vegan, if not everybody. So I think, I have very strong hope, and I pray for that every day.
Awesome, man. And Deepika's just coming back, but okay, there you go. Deepika's back. Cool. We're just onto you now, Deepika. Will we see a vegan world in our lifetime? Are you there?
I don't really think so. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, we can
So,
hear you now, but we can't see you.
okay. So I turned off the video so that my internet
Oh,
is
okay.
better.
Okay.
I don't think we'll see a vegan world. Maybe a more plant-based world, because of course the climate change. But no, I really don't think we'll see a, like Sajani was saying, it is a lot to do with other things rather than just food. So, but we hope, we try.
Okay, fair. And I will give mine then. Mine's kind of like I kind of agree with everyone I'll basically tell you what I think. I think that we right now are laying the foundations for a vegan world. I think that if you went back a couple of 100 years and you asked someone, let's say you asked an African individual currently in Europe or the USA, hey, do you think that you and your people will ever have freedom? Do you think that you'll ever have the same rights as a you know, a white person or whatever, an American or someone who was born here? They would laugh at you, and everybody would laugh at you, and everyone would think you were crazy, right? You know, the right to vote, the right to live freely, they would laugh at you. They would think you were absolutely crazy. And I think that's kind of where we are right now with regards to animal rights. I think people laugh at us. They think we're absolutely crazy when we tell them that there can be a world where we don't do this to animals. But I think that's because of how long it will take. And that's kind of sad. Some people say to me that's really negative, though, that it's going to take that long. It's not negative. It's that we are the foundation of this change. It will take time to make this change completely, but don't feel bad about it. Just be proud that you are one of the people that is setting the foundation for future generations to build from. And one day they're going to look back and they're going to say, wow, you know, can you believe all that time ago that people were doing this, you know? And there were these people that were trying then, and they were laughed at, just the same as the people that just first tried to abolish slavery, or the people that first tried to get you know, in the West, to get women the right to vote, for example, you know, the suffragettes, and people laughed at them, mocked them, were violent to them, did all these horrible things to them. But in the end, they won, you know, and things changed. So I would say that try to be aware of that, you know, if you ever feel like there's no hope, if you ever feel like nothing's going to change, just remember that a couple of 100 years ago, people could have never imagined the world that we have now. Just as the same as that we sit here now and we are struggling to imagine a world without all of this violence, right? It can be achieved, is what I'm saying. Even though we may not be able to imagine it yet, it can be achieved. So that's kind of the way I see it. So the answer is yes, but no, not in our lifetime. I don't think we'll see it in our lifetime. You know, I think we are the equivalent of those people a couple of 100 years ago, considering, you know, human rights. I think that's where we're at. So I guess we'll wrap it up with that potentially controversial comment that shouldn't be controversial, but I'm sure somebody somewhere is going to get upset about it. And we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. And I'll just let everybody know, if you want to follow any of the guests or check out their social media, it's already in the description. You've just got to go to the description and click the link, and it'll take you straight over to their pages. Please do go and follow them and like and comment and give them all that lovely, wonderful support, because we all need it, obviously. It's nice to have, and I'm sure everybody here would appreciate it. And I'm going to do a shameless plug now, but you know, I need to. If you want to see more of this, if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, like more videos, more live streams, more of these kinds of things, it's only possible if you support the channel, if you support me, because that's the only income that I have. So if you are interested in supporting me and supporting more things like this, like educational videos and the stuff that you already know that I do, if you're subscribed already, then please do check out. There is a link to my Patreon, which is also in the description. So please do consider that if you want to support. It would really mean a lot, and it's going to good use, I promise you. So please do consider that. Is there anything you want to close on? Does anybody want to say anything more before we say goodbye? Anything to add?
I just have a comment to Anish. Because he mentioned that he doesn't consider himself an activist, but you know, I mean, I have a full-time job and I'm doing what I can during my free time. So I've been going to a restaurant and, you know, demanding for vegan food and asking, like, telling them, you know, you don't want animal products. If you try to veganize a dish, and telling them like you don't want animal products, or creating a bit of drama there, that itself is activism. You don't have to be like, you know, publicly doing it, but that itself is creating demand. So I think any form of activism is, you know, any form of awareness is activism. So don't look down upon yourself like that. Just a comment. So.
Okay, thank you.
So a lovely note to finish on, and it's something that I wish we could see more of. I really do wish we could see more of this between vegans. It's inspiring. So thank you.
Yes.
And thanks, Anish. Did you want to respond? Did you have something to say? Sorry, I might have cut you off there. Sorry.
No, I really appreciate you saying that. Yeah, but I always feel that, whatever we're doing, is never enough. So we should keep doing it at our best capability. And yes, and yeah, my concept of being an activist, was like you have to be totally devoted to saving animals all the time, no matter what. It's kind of image that I have of as being an activist. But as you said, yeah, just ordering a food, explaining what veganism is, and resisting, like creating even a small resistance. If a person is selling a dog, just telling him that what his or he or she is doing is wrong. That could also be a part of being an activist, and we can always do that. Like the sticker that they gave to me. Respect existence or expect resistance. That has like that has had a very powerful impact on me. I do that every day. When I walk across store that sells like bread, mm, puppies, dogs.
Yeah.
I go to them and just say, what you're doing is wrong. If they are interested, I would explain everything. Would have very good uh, argument or conversation, and that person will have this feeling of guilt whenever he's doing that. And most of the time, what happens is people don't know that they are doing wrong. They take things for granted. They take animals for granted. So whenever there's something being done in a wrong way or something wrong happening, I think it's important that we address it, even in a very subtle way, that our effort won't be going in vain. So like, yeah, and for that sticker, thanks to David as well. Yeah.
That's awesome to know, man. It's crazy how something so small can have a big difference like that. Yeah, and it takes a lot of drops make an ocean, right? A lot of drops make an ocean. So even if you're doing just one thing or two things or whatever, and you don't think that it's enough, or as many as someone else who is doing 30 things, it doesn't matter, because if I don't know, if 7 billion people just talk to some dog breeders once, then it might not feel like anything to those 7 billion individual people, but that's 7 billion people who took one action, you know what I mean, for the animals. Like, so, activism, it's not, being an activist doesn't mean it's just like constant. It means that you are active, you do something, no matter if it's once in a week or if it's once in a month, you're doing something, whatever you can do, whatever you can do is enough. We should always strive to do more, but don't feel guilty if you can't do more. It's really important to do as much as you can, as much as you are able. Yeah.
I would like to add something.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to thank you for having us here for this live stream. It's really nice that you're calling people from different parts of the world and giving us a platform to talk about our culture.
Awesome. I mean, I think people need to thank you for this more than anything. Not you thank me. You've opened many people's minds today, and I'm sure many more people will watch this. So we should be thanking you for coming on to here and giving us this amazing insight into each of your lives and your countries, and it's been really awesome. Yeah. But thank you. Yeah, I'll say I just like rejected your compliment. I rejected it. I'm like, no, I won't take that. Thanks. No, but no, thank you. I appreciate that. The kind words. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I guess it's late for you as well, so apologies that it went
Yeah.
on for almost 3 hours. But I'm gonna go get some dinner now. Actually, it's like dinner time for me, and I guess you guys are gonna go to bed. So good night, and
Yeah, good night.
Night.
hope we can do this again sometime. Thanks so much.
See you.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank
Thank you. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
And it was hearing you, Deepika and Sajani.
Same
Thank you.
here. Bye.
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 Okay, bye. Good night.
Good night.